Hello guys, welcome to my channel. As you can see in the picture today, we will start the story part 1 of what if Naruto got Kaguya as his stepmom, and got harem with her. Minato Namikaze could only stare at his newborn son named Naruto, his azure blue eyes filled with regret, sadness, but also fear. Only a few days ago he had fought a man claiming to be Madara Uchiha, but also the famed Kyuubi no Ryu, before it reached the village. He also had to witness his fiancée Luna Freya Nox Fluid sacrifice her life, by sealing the beast into their son, by summoning the Shinigami. Naruto gurgles as he stares at his father, unaware that his own father is afraid of him. Konoha has never had a Jinchuriki. Sensei has told me about the insane Mizukichi who is the Sanbi Jinchuriki, but Naruto has the Kyuubi. It could cause untold destruction to Konoha, Minato thought. He has spiky blonde hair with azure blue eyes and jaw-length bangs, wearing the standard Konoha attire. It consists of a blue long-sleeve shirt and matching pants with a forest green flak vest. The door of his office opens as the former Sandaime Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi enters, flanked by Jonin Commander Shikaku Nara and Anbu Commander Danzo Shimura. "We have avoided a great tragedy," Hiruzen says. He has peach skin with graying hair and liver spots, wearing a black hakama and a dark blue kozode. Minato leans back in his chair with a sigh. "Indeed we did. If not for Luna's sacrifice and sealing the Kyuubi away, Konoha could very well been destroyed," he says. "Is this our new Jinchuriki?" Danzo says. He has shaggy black hair and an S-shaped scar on his chin, his right eye missing with a black hakama, matching kozode and a shoulder cape to hide his missing right arm. He's more Minato's son than a Jinchuriki, Shikaku says. He has black hair and pineapple-shaped ponytail, a few scars on his face, and wearing the standard Konoha attire. "Regardless, we now have a Jinchuriki at our disposal," Danzo says. "He's still a newborn Danzo, and he's our Yondaime's son," Hiruzen says, chastising his former rival. "Sensei told me stories that Jinchuriki can run wild if they lose control. Kumo has had issues with the Hachibi in the past, and then there is the current Mizukichi," Minato says. "What sort of seal did Luna use?" Hiruzen says. "She summoned the Shinigami and used something similar to the Atrigram seal of the Uzumaki. The seal will leak the Kyuubi's chakra into Naruto's chakra system, and by the time he's an adult will have more chakra than everyone in this room," Minato says, shocking Shikaku and Hiruzen. "Then he should be properly trained," then Danzo says. "For now Naruto will be raised by a nanny," Minato says, shutting Danzo down, but the warrior could see the blonde was afraid of his own son. "Perhaps I can use this to my advantage," Danzo thought. The next 5 years would pass by in the blink of an eye, and many changes would come to the village hidden in the leaves. Minato would announce to the village as a whole about his son, but also the incident with the Kyuubi, declaring his son now housed the beast, and every breath he took would keep the beast at bay. Shinobi understood what Jinchuriki were, but civilians were superstitious, and would keep away from the child in the coming years. Minato would also create a shinobi and civilian council to decrease the burden on the Hokage, also giving civilians a voice in village affairs. Minato would also shockingly marry the grandniece of the fire daimyo named Sir, not even 8 months after Luna's death. This was done in a bid to keep the Fire Lord on Konoha's side, and further endorse Minato being Hokage. Sir would look at Naruto with disgust, and would drip honey poison into her husband's ear to keep the boy at arm's length. This didn't take much, as Minato would let the voice in his head and preconceived notions about Jinchuriki justify him pushing of his own son to the side. When Naruto was about 18 months old, Sir gave birth to twin daughters named Azula and Asuka. This further pushed Naruto away, and a certain warhawk attempted to take advantage, however this would end in failure and his death. The village at large ignored Naruto's existence and focused on the royal twins, namely due to their Kage's concern or lack of concern for his son. Konohagakure no Sato 5 years post-Kyuubi incident. 5-year-old Naruto Namikaze, or simply Naruto, is walking through the village as people ignore him or whisper about him behind his back. He has lightish blonde hair and azure blue eyes, wearing black shorts and a white shirt with shoes. Naruto is considered a curious child and quite intelligent, spending much of his time in his father's library to avoid his family. His stepmother despises him, and his half-sister have picked up on this, treating him as someone not worthy to be in their family. Azula and Asuka could do no wrong, but Naruto could only do wrong. His father would often chastise him or scold him for anything the sisters did. The village at large ignored his existence, but he heard whispers that he was a Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. The little blonde read stories about his father defeating the storm dragon by some unknown means, and said dragon was sealed inside him. He often wondered about his birth mother, but all his father would say is her name was Luna, and she was from another country. He didn't even have a picture of her, as secretly his stepmother had burned much of everything concerning Luna. Naruto soon reaches the park and finds a bench to read a book on the stars, as other children pay with others or their parents. However, unbeknownst to Naruto, someone is watching him, and this person would become a better parent to him than his own. He cuts an imposing build with blonde hair similar to Naruto, also having heterochromatic eyes with a blue right eye and a purple left eye. He wears a white frock with black lining having a large collar that has purple trim, and armored boots. Black downward pointing sword symbols are found on the hem and sleeves of his coat, as well as a large crest with crossed swords. "When I found him," the man thought, slowly approaching this small blonde. Naruto looks up from his book as a man takes a seat next to him. Hello sir, Naruto says, politely. Hello. My name is Ravis Nox Fluid and you are the man says. Naruto sir, Naruto says. I see. What are you reading? If you don't mind me asking, Ravis asks. Naruto closes his book to show Ravis it is on astrology. Quite the book for someone so young, Ravis says. Naruto looks down at his book with a sad look on his young face. It helps me to escape, he whispers. Ravis stares at his nephew and curses Minato Namikaze for treating him like this. Why didn't I fight harder to keep Luna safe? I should have been here, he thought. Sir, are you from Konoha? I've never seen you, Naruto asks. No, I am from Niflheim, it's to the south, and it's a pretty fantastical place, Ravis says. I've read about Niflheim. They have dungeons to explore and can use magic. Which is different than chakra, Naruto says, and Ravis smiles. Indeed, Ravis says and pauses for a moment, and it is where your mother is from, he adds, and Naruto's eyes whiten to flicker. My mom, Naruto says, trying to find his voice, and Ravis nods his head slowly. Yes. Your mother was Lunafreya Nox Fluid and my younger sister, Ravis explains. Naruto stares at Ravis to see if he was lying, but looks down at the ground as he trembles slowly. Where were you, he whispers, pain in his voice. Niflheim is not a nice place and can sometimes be a dead zone. I didn't learn of Luna's death until a year ago, Ravis says and places his hand on Naruto's head, but it doesn't excuse me for not being here, he adds. What was mom like, Naruto asks, looking into his uncle's mismatched eyes. She was the kindest soul one could meet. She loved helping and healing others with her magic. She came to Fire Country during the Third Shinobi War and met your father. I was against it, but Luna could be stubborn. When I learned she was pregnant I was happy, but that happiness died, Ravis says, as suddenly an Anbu with a dog mask and silver hair appears. The Anbu uniform consists of a black outfit with matching sandals, grey chest armor and grey forearm guards. The Hokage wishes to speak with you, Ravis Nox Fluid dog says, and Ravis narrows his eyes. So Minato is watching us, Ravis says, rising to his feet but turning to Naruto. We will see each other again, Ravis adds, as dog grasps his shoulder and vanishes with a swirl of leaves. Naruto stares at the spot his uncle was, unaware he would leave Konoha for the next decade or so. Tension fills the Hokage office as Minato stares at Ravis. Why are you here, Minato says. Ravis stares at him with a serious look on his face. You know why? I came to finally see my nephew, he says. Minato leans back in his chair with a soft sigh. Sorry I didn't contact you sooner, but Niflheim is a hot zone, he says. I already know, Minato, however I'll put that aside. Why is my nephew allowed to roam around on his own at such a young age, Ravis says. He's safe in the village. I have an Anbu watching him, Minato says, actually not knowing Naruto would roam the village alone. Why doesn't Naruto know anything about Luna or his heritage, Ravis says. He's still too young to know about it. Luna is a touchy subject in the village, and it upsets her, say, Minato says, and Ravis narrows his eyes. You've married, Ravis says. Yes. It was several months after Luna's death, but it was for political reasons. Cersei is the grand niece of the fire daimyo, Minato says. So you pushed Naruto aside for a new wife. Has she given you children, Ravis says, and Minato nods his head. Yes. 2 girls, Minato comments but leans forward on his desk. Why have you really come? You knew Luna was pregnant. Yet you stayed away. Now that she's dead. You come 5 years too late, he adds. Ravis clenches his leather right glove. Luna and I didn't have best relationship, but I never stopped loving her. However, you have moved on and married someone else. Even replaced your son with 2 daughters, he says. The kid and your sister weren't even married. So that shouldn't matter, a voice says, and both see Jiraiya Agato stepping through the window. Sensei. He's still my son, Minato says, trying to keep his reputation. Maybe, but he's a bastard from your unmarried fling. No offense, Jiraiya says. He has a mane of white hair with dark eyes, red line going down his eyes, and horn hide with the kanji for oil on it. He wears a green outfit having mesh segments, Jetta sandals and a red hori with 2 yellow circles on them. Luna was engaged to him and they would have married, Ravis says. True, but the Kyuubi incident happened and she died. The Fire Lord was gracious enough to let Minato marry his grandniece. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of one child. He's Hokage and his marriage has and will help Konoha in the long run, Jiraiya says. So Konoha is more important to you than your own son, Ravis says, looking Minato in the eye. The blonde remains silent for a few moments, but sighs. Yes, I am Hokage, and I have to put personal feelings aside, Minato says. Ravis wanted to punch Minato in the face, but he remains calm. So what sort of training will Naruto receive, Ravis says. He'll go to the academy at 10, Minato says. The academy will teach him all he needs, Jiraiya adds. What about your daughters? Will you wait until the academy to train them or will they be trained earlier, Ravis says, but both men say nothing. I see, but I can also see it in your eyes. You fear him, Ravis adds, as Minato's breath hitches. He's the Jinchuriki of the strongest Biju. What if the seal your sister use fails, Jiraiya says. Are you both not seal masters? Haven't you inspected his seal, Ravis counters. We have, but it could still fail. Jinchuriki are ticking time bombs. I care about Naruto, but Minato says. Ravis shakes his head and makes his way to window with a slight look to Jiraiya. Then I will take him, Ravis says, shocking both men. What? You want to take Naruto, Minato says. HMPH. You want the power, the Kyuubi, Jiraiya says, but Reva scoffs, looking the Sannin in the eye. He's my nephew and the last link to Luna. I could care less if he is a Jinchuriki. Unlike the two of you, Revis says. Why take him, Minato asks. Revis turns to face the Yondaime Hokage, so he can reach his full potential. From the little I've seen, Naruto is horribly lonely and escapes into books. Even if I've never met her. Your new wife must hate Naruto as he is constant reminder of Luna. So I will take him away from this stifling place, and let him spread his wings properly, Revis says, and makes his way to the door. I will return in 3 days. I hope you make the right choice, Revis adds, opening the door and leaving the pair. Minato leans back in his chair with a sigh and rubs his eyes. Letting him leave would be alleviate things, he says. You're not seriously considering this, Jiraiya says. The civilians on the council and the village at large are superstitious people. Worse are the Uchiha. Jinchuriki are dangerous, and having Naruto leave would alleviate some problems. Cersei does hate Naruto, and she has the daimyo's ear. You know what that means, Minato says. I know, but to hand him over with no fight, Jiraiya says, but could see the logic. Konoha has never had a Jinchuriki, and they're still the strongest village of the Big Five. While Danzo did attempt to make him his own. What's to stop someone else in the village from doing so? Rumors do say the Sharingan can control a Biju, Jiraiya says. Gigaku and I have been speaking at length about the unrest within the Uchiha clan. A pawn like Naruto could be too enticing for the Uchiha, Minato says, and Jiraiya places a hand on his shoulder. Let's do what's best for the village, Jiraiya says, and heads off to do some research at the hot springs. Minato looks at the ceiling and puts up a half-ram sign to vanish with a yellow flash, reappearing at his family compound. It is a tradition Japanese-style manor with training ground in the back, medium-sized lake with fish in his small dojo. He enters the home and slips off his sandals, but he hears the sound of feet as he enters the hall. Papa, two voices say, and Minato looks to see his daughters, before kneeling and hugging both. Azula has fair skin and amber-gold eyes, her shoulder-length black hair pulled into a small bun with 2 long bangs framing her face. She wears a long red sleeve shirt with black shorts. Asuka has black hair and twin tails, but azure blue eyes like her father, wear the same outfit as sister, but purple and white. Your hair early, Cersei says, approaching as Minato rises to his feet. She is a beautiful woman with fair skin, short black hair and amber-gold eyes, wearing a dark red kimono with black obi. I need to talk to Naruto. Is he home? Minato says, giving her a kiss, but sees a wrinkle of her nose. He's in his room and he's punished with no dinner, Cersei says. He broke a vase, Azula says, knowing full well she and sister broke the vase. I see, I'll talk to him, Minato says, shaking his head. He makes his way to Naruto's room, which is on the eastern side of the manor, as everyone else is on the western side. Naruto, Minato says, knocking on his son's door and opening it. The room is Spartan with a bed, desk, closet and a small bookcase. The little blonde is sitting at his desk with the book open. Your mother tells me you broke a vase, Minato says, disappointment in his tone. Naruto turns to face his father with sadness in his eyes. I didn't. It was Azula, Naruto says. What have I said about lying, Minato says, and Naruto sniffles a little, but the older blonde sighs. Changing the subject, you met your uncle today, he adds, as Naruto slowly nods. He told me a little about my mom, Naruto says, looking down at the floor. Yes. Luna was my fiancée, but she died during the Kyuubi incident by sealing it into you, Minato says, and clears his throat. Naruto, as you know a Hokage well as Hokage. I have to make hard choices, he adds, before kneeling to look his son in the eye. Your uncle asked me to take you out the village, and I will agree to it, Minato says, with his hands on Naruto's shoulders, and the little blonde's eyes were wide. The eye is sending me away, Naruto says, his voice trembling and tears welling up. It'll be for your own good. Think of it as an adventure, Minato says. But I want to stay with you. I'll be a good boy. Please let me stay, Naruto says, tears running down his cheeks. You can't. It's best for the village if you leave. I know this isn't an ideal situation, but to uphold certain ideals, I have to accept less than ideal outcomes for those who don't deserve it. The village must come before everything. Even family, Minato says, rising to his feet. Your uncle will come get you in 3 days. I'll have a maid pack your things, Minato says, leaving his sobbing son to cry himself to sleep. Naruto would not leave his room for those 3 days. Maids would bring him food and drink to make sure he was alright. If he did leave his room, it was to go to the bathroom, but his half-sisters would mock him and declare he was being thrown away like the trash he was. Cersei was quite giddy for Naruto's departure, as she would finally be rid of Luna's taint. Naruto stares at the ground at the main gates of Konoha, as Revis is speaking to Minato. Why would dad send me away? I'm not a bad boy, he thought. Minato and Revis approach as the former kneels to his son, Naruto. I know the situation sounds bad now, but you'll see it was the right choice, Minato says, but Naruto only sniffles. I've given Revis some materials you can learn. The necessities to be a splendid shinobi, Minato adds, before rising to his feet. Revis lifts Naruto into his arms with a serious look on his face. When do your genin graduate? Revis asks. 16. They spend 6 years in the academy and graduate around spring, Minato says, and Revis slowly turns on his heels. Naruto stares at his father with hot tears in his eyes, but the older blonde simply stares, before the younger buries his head into Ravis's shoulder. I know you're hurting Naruto, but in time it will lessen, Ravis says, but Naruto says nothing, before Ravis takes off at a speed rivaling a ninja. The pair travel for about 2 hours, as Naruto says nothing but Ravis stops to give the young boy a chance to stretch his legs. Are you hungry? Ravis says, letting him down. The pair were near the main road as people or carriages pass by, but several feet into the forest in a small clearing. Naruto. Are you hungry? Ravis says, and Naruto slowly nods. Ravis rummages through his pack and pulls out a small bag of whey, before giving it to the young boy with a small bottle of apple juice. Why did Dad send me away? Naruto says, finally breaking his silence. Because he is a fool, Ravis says, curtly, and opens a bottle of water to drink some. He wants to keep his power. Your stepmother is related to the royal family of Fire Country, and he cares more about being Hokage than being a father, Ravis adds. Can I hate him? Naruto whispers. Yes you can. He chose power over his family, Ravis says, and kneels so one need to look Naruto in his eyes. Never forget who you are, and what you possess. The world certainly won't, as there are stigma on Jinchuriki. However, wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you. You may be the son of the Kairoi Senko, but you are the son of Luna Freya Nox Fluid as well, he adds. Naruto stares into his uncle's mismatched eyes and slowly nods. Are we heading to Niflheim? Naruto asks. After another piece of whey, Ravis rises to his feet with a shake of his head. Not at the moment. We're heading to the island nation of Yuzushio, he says. Whirlpool, Naruto says. Yuzushio and Konoha were once allies when Mito Uzumaki married Hashirama Senju, but things soured after her death. Hashirama and his brother's students didn't honor her passing their lie and suffered because of this, Ravis explains. So we're taking a boat? Naruto asks, perking up at seeing the ocean. No. There's a bridge in the port city of Nami, connecting Yuzushio to the mainland. We'll be taking my regalia, Ravis replies, starting to pack up. What's a regalia? Naruto asks, giving Ravis his empty bottle and bag. It would be easier to show you than explain, Ravis replies, securing everything and picking up the little blonde. They would continue to travel a few more hours with a few stops to do their business, but they soon arrived to one of the highways towards Nami. Naruto notices the roads were more developed and paved. You've seen wagons mostly, have you? Ravis asks and Naruto nods. Niflheim's technology spreads through the continent, and these paved roads are one such thing. Konoha has trains and rail lines, but not paved roads to the village. This is mainly due to where they are situated inside their massive forests, Ravis explains, putting Naruto down. I saw a train once, but I couldn't ride it, Naruto says. Ravis slowly nods and raises his hands wide with words Naruto didn't understand, before his eyes widen as a large array forms off the road, and a large thing rises from the array. It is a white contraption with black trim, having no top on 4 wheels and a white interior as well. This is my regalia. Barracuda, Ravis says. Barracuda, Naruto says, sounding out the word. Yes. It is a special vehicle used in Niflheim known as a car. It is powered by a special engine made with magic, Ravis explains, popping the hood. He then picks up Naruto to show him the engine. Magical runes create internal combustion to make it move, Ravis explains, closing the hood with his free right hand, and Naruto sees the crossed swords on the hood. You'll learn more once we reach Yuzushio, Ravis says, putting Naruto in the passenger seat. He moves to the driver's seat and pulls a key from his pocket to start the car as it roars to life, causing Naruto to smile as he liked the sound. Ravis pulls onto the highway towards Naruto's new life, and the birth of the Vortex Hunter. Naruto stares out the car as the smell of the sea enters his nose, and his azure blue eyes on the ocean's crystal blue waters. The Great Whirlpool Bridge, as it is called, connects the island of Yuzushio with the mainland. The bridge is several miles long and has 4 lanes for travel with a lane for foot traffic, small places for people to relax on the travel across the ocean, and a lane to park as well. Why are we going to Yuzushio? Naruto asks. The Uzumaki will help you unlock your chakra, but also help you commune with the Kyuubi, Ravis says, and Naruto's eyes widen. The seal Luna used came from the Uzumaki, and they can help you, Ravis says. I read about Jinchuriki. They say the Biju give their hosts Sekeke Genkai or something similar, Naruto says, remembering the book was written by Mito Uzumaki. The Kyuubi is known as the Storm Dragon. So it could be possible. We will know once you unlock your chakra, Ravis says, and then Naruto slowly nods. The little blonde turns his attention back to the ocean to look as best he could. The journey would take about 3 hours as Ravis would stop to let Naruto stretch his legs or eat some whey on the way. Soon the island of Yuzushio come into view, but Ravis would slow down to let Naruto see the mighty whirlpools where the island got its name. They don't hurt the bridge, Naruto asks, in awe of the churning water. The bridge is outfitted with seals made by the Uzumaki to protect it from the mighty ocean, Ravis says, before pulling off. They soon reach a toll, and Ravis pulls out a paper from his coat, and the man reads it over, glancing to Naruto as he does. Welcome to Yuzushio, the man says, and Ravis nods, pulling off. The countryside of Yuzushio has many steep hills with farmland, but this soon gives way to high-rise buildings, and a massive river running through the center. There were stores, hotels, parks, casinos, and even places of pleasure. Naruto would see the various people and many would have a shade of red hair. It's a trait of the Uzumaki, Ravis says. They soon leave the town proper, and Naruto would see the countryside once again. We'll be meeting with the Uzumaki clan head Asakura Uzumaki. She knew Luna and taught her Fuinjutsu, Ravis says. They soon arrive at large compound near the sea, with a high wall to about 8 feet high, with 2 guards at the gate, both wearing black outfits with red armor and matching hair. The Oryuan says, as Ravis pulls up to them. I'm Ravis Nox Florid, and I am here to see Lady Asakura, Ravis says, and the guard gasps, before telling his fellow guard to open the gate. Ravis drives in, and Naruto sees a large seaside home with a large yard and 2-story manor, as Ravis parks not far from the home. He comes around and lifts Naruto out of the car as a young woman that appears to be in her late 20s approaches. She has long and wavy blood red hair to just above her butt with violet eyes, wearing black pants with a white button-up and suspenders, and finishes off the outfit with heeled boots. It's been a long time, Ravis, the woman says. It has, Asakura, Ravis says, and looks down at Naruto. This is Naruto, he adds. Luna's little one, Asakura says, and smiles at the little blonde. Hello, I am Asakura Uzumaki, she adds. Hello, Naruto says. Asakura leads them inside through the foyer to the back of the house to a deck with a view of the ocean. So what brings you here, she says, holding her hand out for them to sit. Ravis helps Naruto into a chair and takes his own seat to start explaining about Naruto's life in Konoha, how he finally came to Konoha and met this small child, how he spoke to Minato and could see the fear in the man's eye and Naruto's lack of a home life. As powerful as Minato is, he's a coward, Asakura says. Mama voice shouts and Asakura shakes her head. Out here, Kushina, Asakura shouts. Naruto looks back to see a girl about his age with violet eyes and red hair to her ears, wearing a pair of shorts and a kimono blouse. My daughter Kushina, Kushina meet Ravis Nox Florid and Naruto, Asakura says. Hey, Kushina says, and Naruto says hi back. Kushina. Why don't you take Naruto to your room? Well, the grown-ups talk, Asakura says, and Kushina nods, as Naruto slowly hops off the chair to follow the little Redeed. To think Luna would seal a biju inside her own son, Asakura says. Minato was tight-lipped about the incident to me, but Luna must have had a reason, Ravis says. So you brought him here to check his seal, but also to teach him to use the biju's power, Asakura asks. I did. We'll spend at least a year here, and then I'll take him to Niflheim, Ravis says, as Asakura leans back in her chair. I'll prepare a room for the both of you. Though you won't be the only guests in my home, Asakura says, and Ravis arches an eyebrow. Tsunade Senju and her apprentice Shizune Kato are living here, she adds. Perhaps she can aid Naruto as well, Ravis muses. She can teach him some control techniques. She planning to run our medical program, something Konoha shot down during the last war. Their loss is our gain, Asakura says. Konoha continues to fail their allies, Ravis says, and Asakura nods. So how old are you? I'm 6, Kushina says, leading Naruto to her room. I'm 5, Naruto replies. Kushina opens the door to her room, and it's filled with a bed having orange sheets, a bookshelf, walk-in closet and a chest of toys. You have a nice room, Naruto says. Kushina climbs into her bed as Naruto takes a recliner in the corner. Why did you come to Uzushio, she asks. My uncle Ravis brought me. Because Naruto says and pauses, as his father's words well up in his mind. Kushina sees this and hops off her bed to approach Naruto. You don't have to say. If you don't want to, she says, as Naruto sniffles a bit. He wipes a forming tear with a slow nod. Uncle wants to train me and Lady Asakura to help me with the Kyubi, Naruto says. Kyubi, Kushina asks. My mom sealed the Kyubi inside me and made me a Jinchuriki, Naruto explains. My mom's told me about the biju. How there are 9 of them scattered around the continent, but the first Hokage had captured all except the Kyubi, and gave them to the major nations as a sign of peace, Kushina says. I read about that too. The land of wind received the Ichibi. The land of lightning received the Nibi and Hachibi. The land of water received the Sanbi and Gakubi. The land of earth received the Yanbi and Gobi. While Takikaka received the Nanabi, Naruto says. You sure know a lot, Kushina says, and Naruto blushes softly. I like to read. It helps me escape, Naruto says, softly. Escape what, Kushina asks, but before Naruto could answer, her door opens and her mother pokes her head in. Naruto. Ravis has your things. I'm going to show you to the room that both of you will be using, Asakura says. Oh mom, Kushina says. Don't worry, Kushi. You'll see him for dinner, Asakura says, and Naruto waves to Kushina, following the older Redeed to his room with Ravis. Asakura leads Naruto to the southeast wing of the manor. You seem to have your father's eyes, but your mother's hair, she says. I didn't know. I've never seen a picture of her, Naruto says, running his fingers through his hair, and this shocks Asakura, but she remains silent. Damn you, Minato, Asakura thought and looks down at the blonde. She was beautiful. I think I have a picture of her, she says, reaching the room and opening the door. The room has a large bed, a desk, a large bookshelf with books and a walk-in closet. This will be our room for the next year, Ravis says, unsealing their things. Dinner will be at 5, Asakura says, before excusing herself. Tomorrow we'll begin on unlocking your chakra, Ravis says, and could see the little blonde was getting tired, before helping him on the bed. Naruto would take a nap and wouldn't awaken until dinner. It would be an interesting affair as Kushina is a bit of a motor mouth and talks about anything. Naruto would also get to meet Tsunade and her apprentice Shizune Kato, but also their pet pig named Tauntaun. His first day in a new place comes to an end, and the next day he would begin his journey to become strong. The next day Naruto, Ravus, Kushina, Asakura and Shizune were in the western yard of the manor with the little blonde trying to unlock his chakra for the first time. "You can do it," Naruto, Kushina shouts. Naruto is sitting on the ground with his legs crossed, his hands in his lap, and his eyes closed, as he tries to find the pull Asakura told him about. He tries to reach inside himself, and he hears the voices of his sisters or his stepmother belittling him, but suddenly he feels this warm feeling, like the sun wrapping her arms around him. The others watch as a blue aura starts to leak from Naruto to signify him unlocking his chakra. "You did it," Kushina shouts, as Naruto opens his eyes. "Too did," Naruto says, but his eyes grow heavy and folds over. "Naruto," Kushina shouts. "It's just chakra exhaustion from unlocking it for the first time," Shizune says. She is a young teen with short black hair and onyx eyes, wearing gray pants and a white sweater. "You should know that, my little tomato," Asakura says, and Kushina puffs her cheeks. Unbeknownst to everyone, Naruto is meeting his tenant for the first time, as he finds himself in a large cave system. It is two streams, with one having blue water and the other having red water, as the cave is illuminated by blue crystals. "Where am I?" Naruto says, looking around, but sees the waters are leading to a lake of purple and coming from behind him. "At last we meet." "This way, child," a voice says, scaring Naruto and having him looking around frantically. "It's alright," another voice says, but this one is motherly. Naruto sighs and follows the two water paths towards their source, as the cave's ceiling becomes higher and higher, until reaching near 100 feet in the air. "You're kind of small, child," a voice says, and Naruto gasps, as inside this cave is a massive dragon. It has long neck with scales gleaming like black steel, 9 tails with small fins down each, long wings with light blue membrane and 4 horns coming from its head, and pupilless glowing eyes with red marking around the eyes. "Are you the Kyuubi?" Naruto asks. The dragon leans forward with its long neck. "That's what you humans call me." "Yes," it says. "But his name is Valdor," the motherly voice says. Naruto feels the warm feeling once again as it encircles him like a hug, and he looks up to see a young woman with long blonde hair styled in side-sweeping bangs. A double braid going across her head with the rest twisted and pinned up with blue eyes, wearing a white dress. "HMPH. He doesn't need to know my name. But I'll allow it," Luna Freya Valdor says, in an almost tsundere-like tone with his arms folded and looking away. "Luna." Freya, Naruto says. "But you can call me Mom," Luna says, holding her little boy tighter. Valdor stares at the little boy and his ethereal mother. "So, little one, why are you here?" he asks. "Uncle Ravus and Lady Asakura were helping me unlock my chakra," Naruto says. "I saw through your memories. I'm happy Ravus came and took you away from Minato. I had no idea that he would turn out in such a manner," Luna says. "It's not your fault, Mom," Naruto says, and looks to the storm dragon. Why did you try to attack Konoha?" Naruto adds. Valdor cups his chin in thought but growls. "It was a bastard with a Sharingan. He found my lair and took control of me. If not for Luna, I would have killed a lot more people," he says. "Minato claimed he was Madara Uchiha, but I don't believe such a proud man would hide behind a mask," Luna says, and looks to left hand as it slowly fades. "It seems I don't have much longer," she adds. Naruto turns to her with white eyes as Luna places her forehead on his own. "Naruto, I'm sorry I placed such a burden on you, and subjected you to such a life," she says, and few tears run down his cheeks. "Live a good life, my dear son. One last thing I'll do is awaken your magic as well," Luna says, kissing his forehead and fading away. "Sorry, little one," Valdor says. Naruto slowly wipes his tears away and looks back to the dragon. "Thank you, I have read that bid you give their host Sekeke Jinkai," he says, coming to terms with meeting his mom, but losing her. "We can talk about that later." "You're waking up," Valdor says. Naruto gasps and finds himself staring the blue sky. "Naruto," Kushina says, and he turns his head to see her. "Kushina," Naruto whispers. Shizune is opposite the little blonde with her hands out and glowing green. "You suffered chakra exhaustion," she says, before helping him sit up. Ravus is staring at him and Naruto sniffles a little. "Uncle." "I saw Mom," Naruto says, and Ravus's eyes whiten slightly. "Seems Luna sealed part of herself into the seal," Asakura says, and Ravus looks to the sky with a rueful look. "I promise Luna. I will make him strong," Ravus thought. Asakura would have lunch served and let Naruto rest as the little blonde would enter his mindscape to speak to Valdor once again. "You've returned, little one," Valdor says. Naruto sits on a rock in front of the massive dragon with a small nod. "I wanted to talk about our Kake Genkai and the other Biju. Are they dragons like you?" he says. "Among the 9 of us I am the sole dragon. As for your Kake Genkai, it's known as the Storm Release, as I am the Storm Dragon. If you were to use my full power, you would be able to manipulate storms, but for now, you will be able to create lightning that flows like water," Valdor says. "That sounds interesting, but what about the other Biju?" Naruto asks. Valdor folds his arms as he sits down. "Well, first there is Shukaku the Sand Demon. He can give his host control over sand, and you can guess what they would do in a deserty state." And Naruto nods, a shuddering thought. "Then there is Matatabi the Hellcat. She gives her host command of blue flames that burn hotter than normal flames. Third is Asobu, and he allows his host to create special corral, but also mastery of water. Fourth is Son Goku the Boastful. His host will be able to create magma or lava, Voldora says, remembering his fight with the giant red silverback. Next is Kakyo. She's a bit shy and her host can use steam. Sixth is Seiken, and he gives his host the power of acid. Then there's lucky number 7 Chimei. Though there is nothing special about that Kabuto Mushi. 8th is Jayuki the 8-tailed Ashioni, and he can be a bit bullheaded, but gives his host several skill including the use of ink. Voldora finishes. Ashioni Naruto comments. He's a cross between a bull and octopus. Thus the ink. Voldora says. The Biju are very unique, Naruto says. We are, but you humans see us as weapons, Voldora says, thinking about the past and how Hashirama Senju captured his siblings and sold them to other countries for some notion of peace. I don't see you as a weapon. We could be friends, Naruto says, and Voldora huffs with a look away. But want to be friends with a little human, Voldora shouts, but see Naruto frowning. Well, I guess I could be friends with you, little one, but you need to grow first, he adds. Naruto leaves his mindscape with a mission to become friends with Voldora, as he opens his eyes to see Kushina staring at him. I tried waking you, Kushina says. Naruto slowly sits up and runs his fingers through his hair. I was talking to Voldora, he says, and Kushina tilts her in confusion. The Kyuubi, he adds. Oh? So you can talk to a Biju. That's pretty cool, Kushina says. The door opens as Tsunade enters, wearing a white kimono blouse with wide sleeves and blue capri pants. So this is where you are, little tomato, Tsunade says, her blonde hair pulled into a high ponytail. I wanted to see if Naruto was awake, Kushina says, puffing her cheeks at the tomato comment. Tsunade narrows her honey eyes as she gives the blonde the once-over. So this is Minato's little boy. I hope you're nothing like him, she says, and Naruto frowns. I hope not, to him. If I can ask. Why are you in Yuzushio, Naruto asks. Tsunade folds her arms under her 106 centimeters bosom. It's a long story, but I got tired of Konoha's double standard, she says. Now, since you have awakened your chakra, you can start on your control, Tsunade says, and to show the two kids, which would be their routine for the next few months. Yuzushio 6 months later. Seems you have 3 affinities, Asakura says. It has been 6 months since Naruto came to Yuzushio with his uncle, meeting Asakura and her daughter Kushina, also Tsunade Senju and her apprentice Shizune. The little blonde also got to meet Voldora and his mother, but also learning he possessed a Kekkei Genkai. Raiden, Suiton and Futon, Naruto says. 2 are from Voldora and the Futon from Minato, it seems, Asakura says. Do you think Uncle Ravis will find anything on this store release, Naruto asks, sitting with his legs crossed and a few leaves on his body. You can find anything on the black market, Asakura says, and Naruto slowly nods but groans as one of his shadow clones dispels. Lady Tsunade is quite rough, Naruto says, and Asakura chuckles. She can be a bit of a brute. Her taijutsu is centered around her enhanced strength, Asakura says. Something she's teaching Kushina, Naruto says. Yes. Kushi won't be able to learn the more finite techniques from Tsunade, but super strength is a bonus to her Konfukusa, Asakura says, pulling out a pair of wooden bakken from a scroll, and tosses him one. Naruto shifts into a basic kendo stance as Asakura holds her bakken in her right hand. Begin, she says. Naruto slowly edges forward and strikes with a side-sweeping attack, but Asakura parries it with ease. The spar would last only a few minutes as Naruto's skill with the sword were prodigious but still unrefined. The son is a prodigy, Luna. If Minato wasn't so blind to keeping his precious Hokage position, he would have seen it, Asakura thought. Ravis would return about 2 weeks later with some materials on the Ranton Kekkei Genkai, but before the little blonde could use it, he needed to use both Raiden and Suiton to an acceptable level. Naruto would start with Raiden with a clone working on Suiton, a third clone working on Futon. Kushina joined in as she too had a Suiton affinity, and she had nearly a dozen clones for her training, something Naruto was jealous about, but it didn't bother him as she didn't lord it over him. The two children were becoming fast friends, something Ravis and Asakura noticed. On off days or downtime, the two children would learn from Shizune about subjects other than ninjutsu. Kushina would find this annoying as she is a bit hyperactive, but Naruto's presence would keep her engaged. Ravis would spar with Naruto and teach him some basic magic spells, but also prepare him for what to expect in Niflheim. The country was in the midst of a civil war, and the fighting has been bloody. On one side is the Emperor of Niflheim Ladola's Aldercapt, and on the rebels' side is Naruto's distant cousin Noctis Lucis Kalem. Noctis had grown tired of the Emperor's seemingly blind eye to the plight of his people, and he's gathered many nobles, leaders and others to his cause. The civil war is currently at a stalemate, but Noctis's side is gaining ground. Ravis prepared his nephew for Niflheim as it is harsh place, and it swallowed those who were not ready. He pushed Naruto as hard he could, teaching him elemency which fell in line with his elemental affinities. Naruto excelled in his training as their year in Yuzushio came to a close, but something changed, which allowed Naruto to stay one more year in Yuzushio. The change being the birth of Ravis's daughter with Tsunade, as both had a drunken one-night stand on Naruto's 6th birthday. About 2 weeks later, Tsunade nearly broke Ravis's jaw when she announced she was pregnant. This naturally shocked the blonde's uncle, and the stoic man fainted at the news, and Asakura simply belly laughed. Tsunade would give birth their daughter in July, naming her Arya Nox Senju, and her having light blonde that looks almost white, but also heterochromatic eyes of honey brown and blue. Naruto and Kushina were instantly smitten with the baby, playing with her often. Izushio 1 year later. You better take care my daughter, Asakura says, her violet eyes on the now 7-year-old Naruto. Naruto is now wearing black pants and matching boots with a white long-sleeve shirt, having the Izushio symbol in blue and a dark hoodie. I will do my best, Lady Asakura, Naruto says, and Asakura ruffles his hair. Kushina declared she wanted to go with Naruto and Ravis, stating her chains could stop Naruto if he lost control, while trying to use Vildora's power. Asakura was apprehensive, but could see in daughter's eyes that cared greatly about Naruto. When you see me again, I'll be strong, Kushina says, and Asakura smiles, before hugging her daughter. I know you will. I can tell, Asakura says. Naruto sees Ravis speaking to Tsunade and saying his goodbyes to Arya. I wonder what he'll teach you next, Vildora says. One can only wonder, Naruto thought. Naruto. Kushina. Are you ready to leave, Ravis says, approaching, and the children nod. Asakura hugs her daughter with a few goodbyes to her as Kushina waves to Tsunade, Arya and Shizune as she climbs into the barracuda. Ravis starts up his regalia and pulls off as the two children wave. We'll be head across the bridge and then head further south. You should know Niflheim has odd weather patterns. The land is arid desert, but has snowfields that paradoxically coexist mere miles apart, he says. Is there a reason why, Kushina asks. There is a legend that a near-apocalyptic battle took place in the distant past, and it reshaped the world. Niflheim is technologically advanced compared to other nations. So be prepared for things that will appear to be very fantastical, Ravis explains, and both nod. The journey to Niflheim or Naxxus's base operations known as Insomnia would take about 2 months. In that time the group of 3 would encounter bandits, brigands, beasts and the like. This was test for the 2 young children as they were forced to kill for the first time, both becoming nearly catatonic, but Ravis told them that this is the life shinobi, but also soldiers live. This was sobering experience for the pair, but having each other got them through the situation. Once they were in Niflheim they did indeed see arid deserts with barely any life for miles, to white snowfields which Ravis allowed the pair to be children, and play in set snow under his watchful eye. They would stop in several smaller towns to reload on supplies and teach them more Niflheim. Along the way Ravis showed them the ruins of the Lucis kingdom, and told them the history of the once great kingdom. Ravis told them Lucis fell over 2 generations before his birth, and was the seat of power for Niflheim. Before the Aldecap created a new seat of power known as Eos. He told them how from the ruins of Lucis rose the kingdom of Insomnia, or its other name, the Crown City. He told them about the Balauv mines, which was used to build Insomnia, and about the various dungeons spread about. However, when they were old enough, they would be able to venture into them to gain experience, and this excited Kushina. Welcome to Insomnia, Ravis says, as they pass through the wall around the city. Naruto and Kushina were in completely awe of the massive city having tall skyscrapers and it being a bustling metropolis. This is amazing, Kushina says, and Naruto nods, as he sees numerous regalia. We'll be heading to the citadel where Noctis is, Ravis says, driving through the streets of the city and occasionally stopping at red lights. They soon reach a lush area and a large bridge to a man-made island surrounded by water with tall ramparts. Kushina and Naruto gasp as they see more tall buildings, but one stands out. It is silver and has 2 long rows of steps lit by light poles. It has 2 towers of equal height and 3 portals entering into the nave. Above and slightly behind the central portal is a large rose window with tall arched windows flanked by statuary under pointed canopies projected forward. The towers have numerous windows up the length. Behind the front 2 towers are 2 more towers linked by N-shaped truss. Be mindful of your manners, Ravis says, stopping in front of the steps. Several men and women approach to salute Ravis as he exits his regalia. They wear black combat fatigues with visors over their eyes. Welcome back, Lord Ravis, one declares. These are the Crown Guard, and they protect the royal family with the King's Glaive, Ravis says, ushering the 2 children up the numerous steps. Both look around in awe at the designs of the citadel, but they see someone waiting for them. He wears a purple and black patterned dress shirt with a black suit and black shiny red sole shoes. He wears shimmery silver driving gloves with glasses, and has short light ash brown hair swept up at the front of his hairline and green eyes. It's been 2 years, Ravis, he say, adjusting his glasses, but sees Naruto and Kushina. It has been Ignis Cientia. This is my nephew Naruto and his friend Kushina, Uzumaki, Ravis says. Ignis looks over the 2 children as they bow to him. So he is Lunafreya's, Ignis says, and Ravis nods. This is her only son, and he is also the Jinchuriki of the Storm Dragon, Vildora, Ravis says, and Ignis's eyes whiten slightly. I see, well, follow me. Noctis is waiting, Ignis says, and turns on his heels. Ravis and his young charges follow Ignis as he leads through the citadel's lower levels and towards the Hall of History, which precedes the throne room. The hall has numerous paintings that depict the coming of the true king, with the unwinged oracle, giving her blessing to the chosen king, who radiates light that repels the hordes of demons below. What are demons? Kushina asks, and Ignis stops to turn to her. Unholy abominations that have been corrupted by corrupted chakra from an ancient evil, Ignis explains. Another portrait shows the true king accompanied by 3 companions. The rulers of Yor and the Astrals stand watch with 7 swords facing the demons from the king. The 4 soon reach the throne room, and Ignis pushes open the door as the 2 young children take in the room. The room has 2 sets of stairs leading to the golden throne that is surrounded by elaborate metalwork and numerous windows to let in light. At the bottom of the steps were 2 men, and on the throne is a young man, which Naruto suspects is Noctis. So that's Luna's kid. The taller of the 2 at the bottom of the steps says. He is a tall man with a large build and long black hair. He wears black leather trousers with a small side chain, and a black dress shirt with a suit vest but no tie. Though his eyes are a bit different, the second says. He is a young man of average height and a slender build, blue eyes, light freckles and short unruly blonde hair with a similar outfit to his taller companion. Gladiola Samasisha. Prompto Argentum. Good to see you again, Ravis says. Ravis. Is that Lunafreya's son? Noctis says. It is. His name is Naruto and this friend Kushina Uzumaki from Uzushio, Ravis says, and both children, but gasp as Noctis is now in front of them. Noctis has spiky black hair and blue eyes that can glow red with a light beard, wearing a black 3-suit with a suit coat having 6 buttons. Why did you bring them here, Ravis? The war is still going on, Noctis asks. Ravis starts to explain about how 2 years prior he went meet his nephew, finding him alone in a park. However, he confront Minato Namikaze about things and seeing in the man's eyes, before suggesting to take Naruto away from Konohagakure. Minato agreeing to let Naruto leave no fuss, before heading to Uzushio for the next 2 years to train, but leaving out things with Tsunade and preparing him for the harshness of Niflheim. I would like Naruto and Kushina to be trained with the Crown Guard and King's Glove, but also could you allow him a royal arm to awaken his armature, Ravis says. Noctis shifts his gaze from Ravis to Naruto and looks into his azure blue eyes. You would ask for him and his friend to be trained, Noctis says. We can handle it, your highness, Kushina blurts, and Noctis arches an eyebrow. Ignis. Are you not heading to the slave auction in Glacier to root out those traitorous nobles, Noctis says, and Ignis nods, as Noctis looks his way. Take them with you. It will be a test, Noctis says, and his comrades gawk. You want me to take 2 children with me to the slave auction, Ignis says, and Noctis nods. He is the son of Lunafreya, and she is the daughter of the Whirlpool Maiden. I believe they can assist you, Noctis says and looks to the pair. Are you capable of the henge jutsu, he asks, and both nod. They will pose as young nobles looking to buy a slave. You will be their guard. Once you have the nobles, the king's Clavy will deal with them, Noctis adds, and Ignis nods, adjusting his glasses, and is unaware the number of children with him would grow by 2. How long can you hold your henges, Ignis asks. The 3 were inside a carriage making their way towards a mansion in the woods of Glacier for a few hours. So long as no one can dispel it, Naruto says. He and Kushina now look like adults, with him looking like a combination of his father and uncle. He cuts an imposing build, but with silver hair, having jaw-length bangs, wearing a black 3-piece suit with a silver dress shirt. Will there be shinobi there, Kushina says. She has to die for a figure like her mother, but with long black hair and red eyes, wearing a long black dress with lace sleeves. There won't be your names for this, are Laura's and the Lena Makar. You're from the north and are looking for slaves. You both need to act arrogant, Ignis says, and both nod. Now I'll be with you if things go sideways, Ignis says. Though we need to buy slaves, Naruto asks. To keep the cover, yes, and you need to buy at least 2. This way we can get close to the organizer, Ignis replies, and the 2 children slowly nod. The carriage finally arrives at a 3-story mansion with numerous other carriages and people. Are you 2 ready, Ignis says, and both nod, as the door opens. Ignis steps first as Naruto and Kushina follow as the latter links her arm with the former, both giving of an arrogant energy, as Ignis is ahead of them. Laura's and Lena Makar, one of the armed men says, wearing a mask. Yes, Naruto says, with snarky tone. Is there a problem, Kushina adds, equally snarky. The guard shake his head and hands the pair masks that are half white and half black with a smile on it. Enjoy, he says. Naruto and Kushina slip on the masks and follow Ignis inside. If you need to keep people away, just use a little of my aura. Voldora comments, and Naruto mentally nod. The smell of booze and cigarettes catch their noses as people were drinking or smoking as Ignis leads them through. I got us a booth for the auction, Ignis says, and both of them nod, but Naruto could see several men leering at Kushina, something that causing him to glare. The first floor is decorated with tables and chairs, dark decorations of red, black, purple and dark blue. They take the stairs up to the second floor to a ballroom with a stage and booths looking down from above. This way, Ignis says. They reach a private booth and step inside, with it having 2 chairs, a table, but also a fan with a number on it. The auction should start soon. Remember, you need to purchase 2, Ignis says, as the pair take their seats. Naruto and Kushina see a man appear on the stage under a spotlight with a microphone. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I won't waste time because I know your time is more valuable than the product we have, he declares, and many clap. The man starts the auction with a muscular man, and the people start bidding as this continues for several people. This is disgusting, Kushina says. Indeed. All the capt allows this to happen, and some nobles support this, Ignis says. We'll free them, right? Naruto asks, and Ignis nods. I have the king's glyphs surrounding the mansion, Ignis whispers. The auction continues on for another half hour, but both children gasp as young girl with chopped white hair and matching eyebrows is brought out. Her eyes are pale as well with rabbit ears on her hat and wearing rags. We have a young 8-year-old Demihuman. Her name is Kaguya, named for the moon princess, the announcer says. Kushina could see Kaguya's fear-filled eyes. We need to help her, she whispers, as the bidding starts. Naruto raises his number at 15,000, but someone bids double that. How much can we spend, he says. Seeing as this will be rated. Go wild, Ignis says, and Naruto bids 45,000. Kushina sees a man bid 50,000, and he looked disgusting with the neckbeard, but also disgustingly overweight. He might eat her, she thought, as Naruto bids 55,000, but the neckbeard goes to 75,000. Use my ore, Voldor says. Naruto focuses on the neckbeard as he bids 80,000 and projects Voldor's ore, and the neckbeard freezes before he bids. Winner Lore is Makar, the announcer says, and some men take Kaguya away, as the next person is brought out. Another 3 people are bought and sold as another young girl is brought out. She has reddish-brown hair and reddish-hazel eyes with a dirty dress, but could see the defiant look in her eyes. Here we have Rebecca Victoria from the fallen Victoria family, the announcer declares, and a few people murmur. Victoria family, Naruto asks. They were the first family to turn against Oldercapped, and they paid the price for it, Ignis says, and the people start bidding. Kushina picks up the number and places a bid of 20,000, another bids 30,000, and she counters with 40,000. Winner Lena McCart, the announcer declares, and Rebecca is led away. A few minutes pass and one of the masked men opens the curtain. Would like to see your merchandise, he says, and the pair nod. We like them, young Kushina says, adding a snarky giggle and Naruto wiggling his eyebrows. Ignis leads Naruto and Kushina to another meeting room, where Rebecca and Kaguya were waiting with an overweight man in a suit. He has a bald hat and rings on his fingers and a lecherous smile on his face as the 3 enter the room. 2 fine pieces of merchandise you have purchased. Both are virgins, of course, the man says. Rebecca stares at Naruto with defiance in her eyes as Ignis approaches the man, but they whiten as Ignis kills the man with a hidden blade. Stay with these 2, Ignis says, before leaving and locking the door. Are you 2 okay, Kushina says, before shocking both by dropping their hinges. The Ire kids like us, Rebecca says. We were sent on mission by Noctis Lucis Calum and the King's Glove, Naruto says. 2C, Rebecca says. What will happen to us, Kaguya asks. We can ask my uncle to take you back to your homes or find a place to live, Naruto replies. 2 don't have a home. My village was destroyed, Kaguya says. My family was wiped out and I was sold to make some money, Rebecca says. Maybe you can stay with us, Kushina says, but stares at Kaguya's eyes. Are you blind, she adds. No. My father was from the north and assaulted my mother. She said he was from the Hyuga clan, Kaguya says, and Naruto remembers the Hyuga were a very staunch clan. About an hour later the mansion was secured by the King's Glove and the noble arrest with the slaves freed. Ignis started the night with 2 children, but now he would have 4 children. Insomnia Citadel 3 months later. This is the Hall of Kings, Noctis says, walking with Naruto. It's been 3 months since Naruto came to Insomnia and 3 months since meeting Noctis, but gaining new friends in Rebecca and Kaguya. Naruto looks around and sees 13 tombs with weapons in front of them. These are the only royal arms to survive, he asks. Yes. Since you're part of the line of kings. I've decided to honor Ravis's request and give you a royal arm to awaken your armature. It will aid in your time training in the King's Glove, Noctis says. Thank you, Lord Noctis, Naruto says. Noctis stops at the first tomb with a simple black and silver long sword. This is the sword of the wise. Wielded by the wise king, he says. Next is the axe of the conqueror, Noctis says, pointing to the large double-bladed halberd. This is the bow of the clever, Naruto asks, touching the crossbow, and Noctis nods. He was known for to be versed in a myriad of arts, both martial and intellectual. Next, we have the swords of the Wanderer, or the twin swords of the Lion King, Noctis explains. Naruto stares to dual swords and remembers the swords could combine into one sword. This sword was wielded by our founder. Samus Lucis Calum, and his sword was known as the Blade of the Mystic, Noctis says, stopping in front of silver long sword with black mixed in. This one resembles a Fuma's shuriken, Naruto says. It would appear, but it is the Star of the Rogue. Wielded by the Lucian Queen. Prepare, Lucis Calum. She preferred to fight from the shadows, Noctis says, and points to the chainsaw-like great sword. This is the sword of the tall, but it is also known as large sword of the Dynast King, he adds. Naruto is enamored by these great weapons of past kings, as his gaze falls on a tall black and silver shield, the shield of the just, he says. Yes. Wielded by another Lucian Queen, who brought peace and serenity to her kingdom. Then we have the Mace of the Fierce. This king was known for his love of his people and brutality to his opponents, Noctis explains. It looks like you break someone to pieces with it, Naruto says, and Noctis nods. This is the scepter of the pious. Its wielder a pious man and lived according to divine law and smited his foes with blades of light, Noctis explains, stopping in front of silver and black trident. This is the trident of the oracle. Wielded by an oracle. A strong and noble woman was loved by the world. She granted succor to the stars and brought man and God together, and this was the trident of her line. Luna once wielded this trident, Noctis explains. Naruto touches the trident as his thoughts go to his mother. She was a strong woman, and had the kindest heart, Noctis says, placing his hand on the blonde's shoulder, and Naruto nods, before looking towards a katana. That is the katana of the warrior wielded by the warrior king of Lucis. His life changed upon the death of his wife and queen by assailants, Noctis says. His Tsuba handguard has a wing design, having silver double-edged sword-like inlay on the katana's ridge. The katana also has a hole on the base of the kasaki, and the blade itself has a black finish. The last royal arm is the sword of the father, and is wielded by the true king, Noctis explains. So it is your sword, Naruto says, and Noctis nods. Tell me, Naruto. Which royal arm do you feel a pull to? Noctis asks. Naruto turns towards the 13 weapons, but his gaze drifts to the katana of the warrior. A fine choice for your royal arm, and now we can begin your training with armature, Noctis says, and he would see the birth of the Vortex Hunter. 13-year-old Naruto knocks flourish stands with his party of 14-year-old Kushina Uzumaki, 13-year-old Kaguya Itsuki, and 15-year-old Rebecca Victoria. Opposite them is Gladiolus with a smirk on his face, and his arms folded over his wide chest. The four have finished their training with the Crown Guard and Kingsglaive, becoming honorary members, and allowed to wear their colors. You're actually going into the Vortex Dungeon in the Howling Valley, Gladiolus says. I am, Naruto says. He wears a black silver frock coat, black pants, black gloves, and black knee-high boots with a white undershirt. We can handle it, Kushina says, slapping her right bicep. Her red hair now reaches to just above her rear, and she wears a similar outfit to Naruto, but adds fingerless gauntlets. We've trained for this, Rebecca says, wearing the same as Naruto, but adds a red scarf with shoulder and waist gun holsters. Kaguya remains quiet and wears the mage variant of the uniform of a black leather jacket, a form-hugging sleeveless bodysuit with a zipper running down the torso, and an intersecting chain in between her collarbone, joined by a blue gemstone, black pants, and thigh-high black boots. She also wears fingerless black leather gloves and arm warmers, as well as a shoulder cape with a blue interior. Well, I won't stop you, but Ravus will be pissed if you seriously get hurt, Gladiolus says. Naruto slams right fist into his chest with a determined look in his face. I won't. Besides, I have one of the best young and upcoming mages, he says, glancing to Kaguya, and she blushes a little. Gladiolus lets out a belly laugh and slaps Naruto on the shoulder. Well then, little Kingsglaive. Show your medal, Gladiolus says, and the four salute. So we're doing this, Rebecca says, as the four were heading out of the Crown Guard training area. We are. Between the four of us. We can clear this dungeon, Naruto says. Are we heading north once this done, Kaguya says. They reach the outside as clouds were in the sky as signal for rain. I still have 3 years before my sperm donor wants me to return to Konoha. I want to make a name for myself before that, Naruto says. The four make their way down the 2 rows of steps as they greet various people. You should go wild with my chakra, Vildor comments. And bring the dungeon down on us, Naruto says, and Vildor stays quiet. Over the past 6 years, Naruto has been able to wear down that Sun-Ear dragon, and the pair have become friends. He managed to unlock a chakra mode known as Dragonforce, but can only use 3 taels worth, as his body is still young. The foursome reach the bottom of the steps as Naruto and Rebecca raises their hands to speak an incantation. 2 rays appear on the ground, and there regalia rise from them, with Naruto having custom black and red NM4 motorcycle, with a large windscreen, and numerous diesels or skullmothers. Rebecca has a dark sub-regalia known as KN with 4 doors for all of them to use, but a place to put gear as well. We'll get supplies along the way. We should reach Howling Valley the day after tomorrow, Naruto says, and the 3 nod, climbing into KN. Naruto climbs on his bike and starts her up as the front wheel surges with pink energy, before the blonde takes off with his party behind him, and the beginning of the Vortex Hunter. Howling Valley is southwest of Insomnia in the ruins of Harkonia, and the party dealt with roaming monsters, ruse soldiers and weak demons, as they loaded up on supplies. This dungeon is relatively new, and explorers found it was Temple of the Vortex Queen, a powerful warrior mage and summoner. It could increase the number of weapons for my armature, Naruto thought. He gained numerous weapons over the years for his armature, but the only royal arms he used was the katana of the warrior. Noctis noted Naruto fought similar to his father Regis Lucis Calum. He used his personal collection of weapons for his armature. The party soon reach the Howling Valley and have to leave their regalia behind, but luckily Naruto and Kushina taught Kaguya and Rebecca to unlock their chakra, helping Rebecca with her guns and Kaguya with her magic. So this is the ruins of the Temple of the Vortex Queen, Kushina says. The 4 were standing in front of entrance leading underground. Around them were the ruins of a church or temple. It would see, so Rebecca says, adjusting her scarf and then her guns in her waist and shoulders holsters. The 4 head down about 4 rows of steps to a cave system with a few paths, Kaguya Naruto says. Swallows of air, Kaguya says, holding up her staff. It is silver and black with chain motifs around it, and curved top having a blue crystal. Several blue swallows appear and fly down the paths to guide their way as Kaguya closes her eyes to look through them. This way, she says, leading them through the eastern path. Rebecca unholsters her twin pistols made by Prompto known as Quicksilver. The bullets are created by one's magic, and can even keep up with ninja, as she tested them with Naruto. The 4 follow the path as Kaguya's swallows continue to scout. What do you think we'll find, Kushina asks. One only knows, Naruto says, as the path becomes more refined as they go. It's like the entrance was carved towards this path, Rebecca says. Maybe the temple was collapsed and they had to dig another, Kushina says, and Naruto nods in thought. They soon reach a large chamber with broken pieces of armor scattered about, but standing about 40 feet from them is an empty set of full plate armor, with long elk horns and a sword in its hand, driven into the stone floor. The sword is a broadsword with a blood groove down the length, the handle is wrapped in brown leather, and features a regal lion's face decorating the stone guard with an intricate antique finish along the pommel. Music high Yober circlet. Once the four were fully in the chamber, the floor glows a light red, and an array forms behind them, but also to the right the statue of armor, like Kaguya says. The broken pieces of armor start to rise and form soldiers, as the full plate armor comes to life with light blue flames. Seems we'll have to fight to continue on, Naruto says, holding out his left as he invokes his armature, and the katana of the warrior emerges with white-blue energy. Kushina bites her lip to draw blood and smears some on her thumb. Kuchius no jutsu, she says, summoning a chainsaw great sword made in honor of the sword of Atoll. Let's do this, Naruto shouts, and three rush into battle as Kaguya fires fireballs from a distance. Kushina swings her great sword with ease through a few armors, as Naruto pushes towards the full plate armor, but dodges left as it swings, creating a slice of wind. Interesting, Naruto thought, moving towards the full plate and again dodges another slice of wind. It raises its sword high as Naruto closes the gap with the upward swing, causing a vortex of wind as Naruto braces with his katana, and uses Charka to hold himself steady. Sao, Naruto hisses, as cuts form on his body, and he parries the broadsword aside to backleap with a skid. Rebecca leaps into a spinning bullet storm as her bullets target limbs and stun them, allowing Kushina to cleave them apart or Kaguya to blast them with a spell. Naruto sends his katana away and weaves signs to Dragon as he links his hands together. Rantan laser circus, he shouts, firing light blue laser beams. Full plate swings its sword to deflect, but Naruto closes the gap with a stinger, the force of the thrust sending the armor back, but Naruto combos it into a high time. It lifts the armor off the ground as Naruto leaps into a helm break, and the overhead swing sends the armor crashing down, but the blonde also sends his phantom blades into the armor as he lands. The other armor collapses to the ground as Naruto stares at full plate, but raises his katana as it moves, to slowly hand the blonde its broadsword. Take it, full plate says, in an echoing tone. Naruto slowly takes the sword as full plate breaks down, and runes appear along the blade to reveal its name. Vortex gaze, he whispers. The ray blocking their way shatters like glasses as Naruto looks around, but focuses as he makes Vortex gaze a part of him armature. The sword glows white blue and breaks down to become a part of his hoard of weapons. Everyone alright, Naruto asks. We are, but you're bleeding, Rebecca says. Kaguya uses a healing spell on Naruto as Kushina rests her chainsword on her shoulder. We continue, Kushina says, and Naruto nods. There must be other levels, Naruto says. The four continue on through the exit of the chamber and find another triple set of stairs leading further down. I wonder how far down it goes, Rebecca says. Naruto looks around, and he starts to see engraving of a warrior woman with various weapons, a broadsword, a great sword, a pair of daggers and a bow. I hear what Kaguya says, her ears moving around. The group reach the bottom of the stairs and see a lake about 20 feet in front of them. Think another fight, Rebecca says, looking around and grabbing one of her quicksilvers. Possible. So be on guard. Kaguya, Naruto says, as they reach the water's edge. Pisces of Aquarius, Kaguya says, and several fishes of water appear and swim around the waters. A few moments pass as no attack comes, but Kaguya opens her eyes. There's switch, I believe, with the sword, she says, and Naruto cups his chin in thought. Look like I'll have to swim down and check it, Naruto says, and this causes all three girls to perk up. He slowly begins undressing down to his orange boxer briefs, as three stare with two getting small nosebleeds and one hiding her eyes with her ears, but still peeking. Keep your eyes trained. Enemies may appear, Naruto says, and dives into the water. He covers his mouth and nose with his hand to create an air bubble with some magic, as he starts to dive down towards the switch Kaguya mentioned. This Vortex Queen has created an odd temple, Valdora says. Maybe she wanted someone to collect her weapons. Even if she's been dead for years. Vortex gaze is pristine, Naruto thought. The water is crystal blue but dark at the same time, on your left, Valdora says, and out of his periphery, Naruto sees a light. He stops but quickly weaves a large chain of signs to bird, as a large angular fish is swimming towards him. Suit and Sansuke and no jutsu, Naruto thought. Three water dragons with golden eyes form and charge the angular fish, crashing into the fish and tearing into his scales, as Naruto continues swimming towards the switch, as he sees the sword driven into it. Another sword. Why not a weapon like the Cerberus, Valdora says. Naruto grabs the sword and pulls it from the switch, as runes light up across the blade to reveal the name Vortex Pain. It is a great sword with a battle-worn solid metal crossguard and pommel, genuine lithoroped grips and a rat-tail tang. Naruto looks over the blade as the water level lessens as the section of ground near the switch opens. Naruto. Did you kill this fish? Kushina shouts. I did. Think we can eat it, Naruto says, using armature on Vortex Pain. Kushina slides down the hole and uses her sword to cut some pieces off the angular fish, as Kaguya prepares a fire. Seems we'll need to go further down, Naruto says, pointing to the opening by the switch. I wonder deep we are, Rebecca says, as Naruto puts his clothes back on, and Kushina tries to cook the pieces. Makes you wonder why make it so deep, Naruto comments, as Rebecca slides down towards Kushina and Kaguya. Naruto finishes getting dressed and slides down as the four fill their bellies, before heading to the stairs and finding another path to lead them further in, as this path is lighted. Anything Naruto says, and Kaguya listens with her ears but gets nothing. The path deviates to the left until the four reach a chamber with a pedestal in the center of the room, also engravings around the room with some metalwork as well. On the pedestal is a pair of daggers having a silver blue blade with 3 spiraling cutting edges. The handle is black with a skull crusher pommel, and the blade looks like a cyclone. Another vortex weapon, Naruto thought, slowly approaching the pedestal. He slowly grasps the daggers, and like before, runes appear along the blade to reveal their names. Vortex fangs, Naruto says, before metal bars shoot up from the floor around him. A blue ray lights up as Kaguya, Rebecca and Kushina shout his name as he vanishes. Music change restriction in Pledge Hunter x Hunter. Naruto gasps and finds himself in what appears to be a large throne room, but he can barely see 5 feet in front of him, as he grips the vortex fangs. He continues to look around as something whizzes by his ear to cut the top, causing him to tense, and sends the daggers away to bring out vortex gaze. Naruto shifts his eyes from right to left with gaze in both hands, but another whiz happens but hits the sword, pushing him back with a skid. Come out, Naruto shouts but gets no answer. However, suddenly he as pain blossoms in his right leg, and Naruto looks down to see a bleeding wound, but then a pain above his right shoulder. What, Naruto says. Someone is here, Valdora says. Naruto grunts as 3 more wounds open up on his left shoulder, left leg and his right cheek. I'm not sensing anything until I am struck, but there is something hitting me, Naruto thought, bringing out his armature. The phantom swords block a barrage of strikes, but Naruto couldn't see what was striking his blades. Then let's try this, Naruto thought, weaving signs to hair and inhaling. Suit and Mizurapa, the blonde thought, spewing water out his mouth to coat the floor around him, as his left cheek opens, and he weaves to ram. Suit and Kurigakur no Jutsu, Naruto says, creating a thick mist, and his eyes whiten as thin streaks appear as he brings out his blades. Arrows, Valdora comments. Naruto attempts to dodges but slips on some water and blood as this helps dodge a flurry of arrows. You're going to have to finish this quickly. I'm not good at healing like the others, Valdora says. Naruto gets to his knees as he brings out a tael's worth of chakra from Valdora, and weaves signs to slap his hands together, creating a large pulse of Raiden with his eyes closed. There, Naruto thought, vanishing with a combination of warp and shunshin. He brings out the katana of the warrior as he sees a woman with long silver hair and light armor, and a black and silver recurve bow with phoenix markings in her hands. She fires a few arrows, but Naruto sees they are made of wind, before grunting in pain as a few find his stomach, but he stays the course with an aerial but downward stinger, piercing the woman in the chest. Her eyes widen as they crash to the ground, and Naruto groans in pain from the wounds to his body. An interesting person. One of the Lucian bloodline, the ethereal woman says. She leans down and places her hand on Naruto's chest. Thank you for freeing me. I leave my weapons and my summons to you, she adds, as 2 tattoos form on Naruto's body. One is a Leontiger hybrid, and the other is a phoenix. Use them well, the ethereal woman says, and fades away. Song ends. Naruto's eyes slowly open to find himself surrounded by 3 crying girls. Where, he whispers. Kaguya is healing him with tears in her pale eyes, with Kushina and Rebecca trying to hide their tears. What happened? You vanished but reappeared covered in wounds, Rebecca says. I think I fought Lady Vortex and got a bow, Naruto says, seeing said bow on his chest, and the runes appears to reveal its name of Vortex Abandon. You also got 2 summons, Valdora says. Naruto was about to answer the dragon, but Kushina starts shaking him with tears in her eyes. You almost died. Think before rushing into anything to know we took this dungeon to prove ourselves, but she says, as Naruto touches her cheek. Sorry I dragged you 3 into this. I'll think next time, Naruto says. You better, Kushina and Rebecca say, in unison. Naruto slowly gets to his feet with a groan and looks over his new bow. Let's head back, he says, sending it away with armature. The 4 start to make their way back to the surface, as Valdora explains things as the Lady Vortex was originally from up north and came south, bringing her 2 summons with her of the Liger and Phoenix. So you have 2 summons, Kushina says, as to pass the remains of the angler fish. Not in the traditional sense, I think, but yeah, I have 2 summons, Naruto says, causing Kushina to puff her cheeks. I've never heard of a Liger, but phoenixes are said to rise from the ashes of their deaths, Rebecca comments. Liger sounds like a combination of lion and tiger, Kaguya adds. The 4 soon reach the surface but immediately go on guard as people were waiting for them. All of them were wearing white outfits having silver armor on their legs or arms with burqa masks over their faces, along with the symbol of a sword through 2 dragons on a red background. However, one stands out as he wasn't wearing a covering over his face to show his wrinkles and his dark hair in a bun. His most noticeable feature is his beard and a flail in his right hand with a hooded cape. Ha 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 ha. It seems we have a group of explorers who have explored this dungeon, the leader declares. We're not explorers. We're King's Glove of the Kingdom of Insomnia, Kushina shouts, causing Naruto to sweat drop as he wanted that to be a secret. The leader releases a belly laugh with a wild look on his face. Even better. I am Caliber and we are members of the Eos Empire, and what better way to honor Emperor Aldacap by bringing him the heads of 4 insomnia dogs, he declares. Kaguya. How many? Naruto says. At least 50 soldiers, Kaguya says, moving her ears. Kushina right, Rebecca left, Kaguya support, Naruto says. Kill them, Caliber shouts. His soldiers open fire with fireballs, but the 4 spring into action. Kaguya counters with a green barrier for Naruto as Kushina rushes right with her chainsword and Rebecca heads left, drawing her quicksilvers. One of the soldiers with Caliber breaks formation, but Naruto grabs his face, driving him into the ground, and leaping to dodge another's flame. Naruto brings out Vortex Gaze and swings to create a vortex to wind to offset the flames, creating a firestorm to engulf several soldiers. Caliber manages to dodge this and sends Mana to his flail to increase its size. Take this, he shouts, swinging the large flail. Naruto parries the flail with a loud clang as he glances to see few soldiers charging Kaguya. They are assuming she is simply a mage, Valdor says. Kaguya plants her staff into a standing dropkick to one soldier, into several strikes with her staff and a few spells. Explosion, Caliber shouts, pointing his right hand, but Naruto dodges as the ground explodes where he was standing. Naruto leaps as Caliber tosses the flail, but the blonde uses it as springboard to switch to Vortex Abandon, and firing a barrage of wind arrows. Caliber dodges and increases the size of his flail once again to send it towards Naruto, but the blonde blocks with a shield from his armature. Why has the Eos Empire sent soldiers here? Naruto says. It matters not to you, Insomnia Dog, Caliber shouts, increasing his flail even more, and spins the massive weapon over his head. He brings the large flail down, but Naruto blocks with his shield as the ground buckles underneath. Ha 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 ha. You will die, Caliber howls, increasing the size of his flail continuously. Naruto grits his teeth as the ground continues to give way underneath his boots, but the blonde uses his free right to weave one-handed signs. BRRR. Raiden Thunder Spear, Naruto says, firing a blast of lightning like a spear and cutting into the side of Caliber. This freezes the crazed knight as Naruto uses Kawarimi with him. Kaguya, Naruto shouts. She appears above the large flail to slam her boots into it, and crushing Caliber with his own weapon. Naruto falls on his butt as Kushina approaches with her sword stained in blood. Any survivors, he asks. No, but a bunch ran off, Kushina says, and sees Rebecca approaching. Anything, she adds. They wanted the possible riches of the dungeon, Rebecca says. Naruto gets to his feet and dusts off his rear to approach the crater with Caliber's flail now back to normal. The crazed knight was unmoving, but Rebecca puts one into his head for good measure. Naruto grabs the flail and adds it to his collection, before creating a dozen clones to explore the remains of the temple. If there are riches other than the Lady Vortex's weapons, we should find them but archive them, Naruto says, and the 3 nod, but the blonde is unaware a tragedy has happened. In Samina's citadel 1 week later, Naruto feels his legs were ready to give out as he stands opposite Noctis. What? Naruto says. The ruler of Insomnia stares at Naruto, but rises from his chair to approach the blonde and place his hands on Naruto's shoulder. Ravus was critically injured in battle, Noctis says. What happened? Naruto whispers, his eyes flickering. It was an ambush led by Ard and Azunia, and a large group of demons. Noctis starts and returns to his desk. Ravus fought valiantly and severely wounded Arden, but the price was high as he was severely burned in the process. Arden fled like the coward he is, and Ravus was rushed back, but it is too late for him, he finishes. Where is he? Can I see him? Naruto says, clenching his hands behind his back. Noctis slowly nods and calls for someone to escort Naruto to Ravus. His will has been keeping him alive. When his body couldn't, Noctis says, and Naruto salutes, before quickly following a member of the Crown Guard. I'm going to kill that bastard, Arden, Naruto thought. I know you do, but you aren't strong enough yet, Valdor says. I know that, but he is the only family I have left, Naruto thought. You still have a father and sisters, Valdor comments, but Naruto nearly slams his fist into the wall of the elevator. Sorry, the dragon adds. Minato Namikaze is no longer my father, and the only reason I'm going back to get what my mother left me. I know he has my inheritance, Naruto thought, stepping off the elevator and walking down at hall as dread fills him. The crown guard stops at the door as Naruto touches the handle with his eyes flickering, but pulls it down and enters the room. Ravus is laying in a bed with bandages covering all but a small portion of his face, and could see his uncle is missing his leg as well. Naruto slowly approaches the bed as if his legs were stuck in a thick mud. Uncle, he says. Naruto, Ravus whispers, opening his eye. Naruto kneels next to the bed with flickering eyes as Ravus stares. Do not grieve, Naruto. Soon I will be with Luna and Mother, Ravus whispers, as Naruto stifles his tears and sobs. How could this happen? Naruto whispers, his forehead hitting the bed as tears run down his cheeks. Ravus weakly raises his bandaged left hand to place it on Naruto's head. Naruto. I have something to ask of you. My sword Albolianus gave it to my Ari, Ravus whispers. Uncle, you can't leave. Please. Two can be alone again, Naruto says. You're not alone. You have Kushina, Kaguya, Rebecca, Asakura, Tsunade, and HHH. Shizu Nadari Ravis says, weakly rubbing the blonde's hair. Babe so but you saved me at my darkest hour, Naruto says. And you saved me in mine. You've grown into a strong young man. I would have been proud to have you as my son. Live a good life, Ravis whispers, before his hand falls from Naruto's head. A shudder of pain pierces through Naruto, as loud sobs fill the room as the blonde grieves for his uncle. Kushina and the others would find Naruto in the room, curled up into a ball and sobbing, but the blonde refused to leave when asked by the three. Kaguya would have to use a spell to knock Naruto and get him brought back to his room. Noctis would have a day of mourning for Ravis the day before his funeral, which would be a procession through a section of the city. Naruto would not attend as the blonde was holed up in his room, not eating or drinking and only crying, but he would get the kick in the week after Ravis's death. Naruto lays in a ball in another part of his mindscape, unable to face Fildora or anyone else for that matter. Losing Ravis brought back old memories of his father, stepmother and half-sisters, with the constant mocking from the latter, or the disappointment from the former. Naruto hears footsteps walking on water, and his eyes shoot open to see a figure looking down at him. They wear somewhat thick armor, a tattered cape, and a large volume feather tassel on the top of their spiky helmet. I know the feelings. That you are feeling, the figure says. Naruto stares at the figure but recognizes the armor. The warrior king, he says. When my love was taken from me, I waged a near global war in revenge for her death. It broke me, warrior says. Naruto feels the hot tears running down his cheek. He saved me. If he hadn't. 3, he whispers. Would you wish to see you wallow in sadness? He would ask you to stand and surpass him, warrior says. I don't know if I can, Naruto whispers. You have the blood of kings in your veins. You can persevere, young one, warrior says. I agree, a voice says. Naruto looks up to see a sky blue and silver phoenix with flame-like wings, but also a large white tiger with black stripes. Greetings. I am Bran and this my cantankerous ally Kaiser, the phoenix says. They are summons of the Lady Vortex, warrior says. I can understand your pain, but it is foolish to wallow in it, Kaiser says. As the warrior king says. You have blood of kings and can overcome this sadness. You have allies, Bran says. Naruto sniffles as he remains quiet but wipes his eyes. I'll try, he says. We will be with you, Naruto, Bran says, as Naruto leaves his mindscape. He slowly opens his eyes to his bedroom, and weakly sits up with a sheet around his body, before sliding off the bed and making his way to table with a case on it. He slowly sits down and opens the case to reveal Ravis's sword Albolianus. It is a gold-hilted saber with a dark-colored blade that has a central ridge. This seems like a good sword for his little one, Vildora says. Naruto hears his door open, and he looks back to see Kushina with a tray of soup. Naruto, she says, followed by Rebecca and Kaguya. Hey, Naruto whispers, closing the case and moves it aside for Kushina to place the tray down. How are you feeling, Kushina says. A little better, Naruto says, staring at the soup and let it cool a bit. Will you leave your room today, Kaguya asks. You stink. So a birth first, Rebecca adds. Naruto sighs and grabs the spoon to try some of soup. Yeah. It'll be tough, but I can't hide here forever, he says, after slipping the spoon of soup into his mouth. So we're still heading back, Kushina says, and Naruto nods. We'll head to Uzushio and tell Aunt Tsunade about Ravis. From there we'll head out to make names for ourselves, Naruto says, after a few spoonfuls of soup. I can't wait to show Mom how strong I've gotten and introduce her to you too, Kushina says. I want to see the whirlpools, Rebecca says. I want to see the ocean, Kaguya adds. The room falls into silence as Naruto eats his soup, but Kushina looks to Rebecca and Kaguya as both slowly nod. Naruto, I know this isn't the best time to say this, but I need to tell you this, we love you, Kushina says, and Naruto looks to her with the spoon in his mouth. I love you too. We've been friends for almost 8 years, Naruto says, and Kaguya places a hand on his shoulder. No, we love you. Like we want to be a couple, Kaguya says, and Naruto's eyes widen. We've talked about this for a while and we agreed. It would be best to share you. That way you don't have to choose between us. Plus Kushina told us that up north that there is something called the Kra, Rebecca adds. But I don't have a clan, Naruto says. You can. The Nox Florid clan. Mom could help you create it in Bam. Kra, Kushina says. Naruto places his spoon down and looks the girls in the eye, but could see their determination. I guess I can't say no, he says. Nope, and since I've known you longer, I'll be the head wife, Kushina says. I don't know about all that, Rebecca says, and Kushina puffs her cheeks, causing Naruto to sigh and finish his soup as the two argue. 3 weeks later, Naruto, Kushina, Rebecca and Kaguya were leaving Insomnia to head to the north. For Rebecca and Kaguya, this would be a new experience as the north didn't use magic as much as the south, but both could use chakra as Naruto and Kushina taught them. Ran and Kaiser said they were different than the other summoned clans, as Naruto would only be able to summon them, but the pair could alter their size to be as large as Vildor. Naruto would make a vow at Ravis's grave to surpass his uncle and kill Ard in Izunia. The Great Whirlpool Bridge. Kaguya and Rebecca stare at the ocean with the wonder of children as they were stopped at the midway point of the Whirlpool Bridge. It has been about a month since they left Insomnia, but unlike Naruto and Kushina's journey, they didn't stop much, but did deal with bandits or stray monsters. They stopped in the port city of Nami, and Naruto noticed the town seemed off compared to the first time he came, so he left some reinforced shadow clones to scout things out. I wonder how cute Arya is, Kushina says, and Naruto shrugs, making some adjustments on his bike. Aunt Tsunade is a beautiful woman, and Uncle Ravis was a handsome man. So by virtue of that Arya should be cute, Naruto says. Don't be fooled by Tsunade-chan. She's old and hides behind a henge, Kushina says, and Naruto quirks an eyebrow. Are you sure? It would be near impossible to hold a henge all the time, and she does have Uzumaki genes, Naruto says, and Kushina huffs, folding her arms. I still think it's a henge, Kushina says, and Naruto sighs, shaking his head. Come on you two, Naruto shouts, starting up his bike. Kaguya and Rebecca make their way back to Rebecca's KN, with Kushina driving the rest of the leg to Uzushio. About an hour later the four reach the toll gate, and one of them sees Kushina, before letting them in, and they make their way towards Asakura's home. Rebecca and Kaguya stare out the window at the hustle and bustle of Uzushio, with it being a smaller but homely version of Insomnia. The farms were robust and the city not as crowded as Insomnia as well. Will the people accept me, Kaguya says, from the back seat. Sure. They'll be prepared for the major shinobi villages as not many demihumans come this far north, Kushina says. Naruto won't let anything happen to you, Rebecca adds, seeing a casino and a blonde storming out. The four soon reach Asakura's home, and the guards were shocked to see Kushina but also Naruto, before opening the gates to let them in, and alerting Asakura. Naruto pulls in front of the KN as Asakura comes out of her house, but he also sees a little girl about 4 years old, with long red hair and matching eyes behind glasses. Kushina. Naruto, Asakura says. Hey mom, and who's that, Kushina says, pointing to the little girl behind her mother. Asakura places her hand on the little girl's head. This your little sister Karen, this is your sister Kushina and her friend Naruto, she says. Karen stares at Kushina and Naruto, but her gaze drifts to Kaguya, however it's more to her ears and her eyes light up. Bunny, Karen shouts and Kaguya blushes. A demihuman but her eyes, Asakura says. Yeah. This is Rebecca Victoria and Kaguya Atsuki will explain in detail, but is Aunt Tsunade here, Naruto says. She's at a casino, Asakura says, picking up Karen. Kaguya lets Karen touch her ears with a small smile as Asakura invites them inside. You two have grown, and not just physically, Asakura says. We learned a lot, Kushina says. Asakura leads them to the back deck and lets Karen sit in her sister's lap, so Asakura says. Naruto sighs and starts explaining things over the past 6 years, how they met Noctis and his comrades, met Rebecca and Kaguya at a slave auction, training with Kingsglaive and Crownguard, conquering the temple of Lady Vortex, gaining Bran and Kaiser, but also the loss of Ravis in battle. Ravis was a good man, Asakura says, her tone saddened. Does Arya know about her dad, Kushina asks. She's know little about him, and that he's from Niflheim, Asakura replies. Ravis had a daughter, Kaguya asks, and Asakura nods. She was born before Ravis took Naruto and Kushina to Insomnia, Asakura replies. The deck door slides open as Tsunade steps, but her eyes widen at the sight of Naruto, Kushina, Rebecca and Kaguya. Little tomato, Tsunade says, and several ticks mark form on Kushina's face. You the lady from the casino, Rebecca says. Tsunade ignores this and looks at the two young children who are now young teens. So where's Ravis, she asks, and could see Naruto visibly deflate. Uncle Ravis died a little over a month ago, Naruto replies, and Tsunade's eyes widen to flicker. To see, Tsunade says. Naruto wipes a stray tear and pulls out the case containing Alba Leonis. He asked me to give this to Arya. It's his sword, Alba Leonis, he says. Tsunade approaches the table and slowly opens the case to see the saber. I'll make sure she gets it once she's old enough, she says. Where's Arya, Kushina asks. Shizune took her the park. Your friend here has eyes very similar to the Hyuga, Tsunade says, changing the subject. My father maybe was from the Hyuga clan. He assaulted my mother. Though I think my eyes are for aesthetic purposes and I can't use their jujutsu, Kaguya says, and Tsunade frowns. I see, Tsunade says and sighs. Konoha has changed a lot, she thought. And Tsunade. Does Konoha know about Arya, Naruto asks, as Tsunade takes a seat. Unfortunately they do. Jiraiya's informants happened to see us at the park about a year ago. Since then Minato has asked not less than 10 times for me to return to Konoha, because the Senju now have heir. Luckily they don't know Ravis is her father, Tsunade explains, but smirks. I wish I could have seen Jiraiya's face. I bet he whined that I now have a child, but not with him, she adds. Did he ask about me, Naruto asks, but Tsunade shakes her head and the younger blonde sighs. He's more concerned with the Uchiha massacre, Tsunade says, and Naruto's eyes widen. It happened about 2 years ago. Some unknown group attacked the Uchiha under the cover of darkness. The clan was mostly wiped out save the clan head's wife Mikoto, her 3 children. The eldest son's wife and non-combatants, she explains. They could attack a major clan like that, Kushina asks. Rumors are swirling, but nothing is concrete. However, there is something you should be prepared for. It's an organization called Akatsuki, Asakura says, and Naruto arches an eyebrow. Akatsuki, Rebecca says, and Asakura nods. Their group formed a name with noble motives, but that changed when one of the leaders died. Now they are taking in Missingnon, and their noble intentions have turned darker. Our spies found they are searching for the locations of the 9 Jinchuriki. For sinister purposes, Asakura explains. All the more reason to stay on the move and continue to train, Naruto says. You can stay as long you need, however, Kushina. I learned something about one of the leaders, it's Nagato, Asakura says, and Kushina's eyes widen, with her breath hitching. Is Nagato? Kaguya asks. Kushina looks at the ground with a sigh. He's my older brother. He awakened the Rinnegan when he was 13 and attained a god complex, she says. He killed my husband and fled. He managed to stay under the radar, but I've had hunters searching for him, Asakura says. So he wants to prove himself a god among people by capturing the Biju, Rebecca says. It is possible. However, the Rinnegan is an almost mythic jutsu. So when you're out there, be careful and run, Tsunade says, and all four nod, but Naruto groans. Seems Nami is nearly under new management, Naruto says and rubs his head. A man called Gato is trying to take over the city, he adds. That can't be good. That could put Yuzushio in bad shape as the bridge passes through Nami, Kushina says. Asakura leans back in her chair with her eyes on Naruto. Think you can handle it? A way to start your infamy, she says. Port city of Nami. The next day Naruto and company were making their way through the port city, his clones gaining information about Gato, and the man is rich, very rich, but also a miser when it concerns money. He has been buying businesses to subtly take control of the town, but his miserly ways are hampering things. Do you think we can deal with this, Gato? Kushina says, as the four were wearing their Kingsglaive outfit, but minus their frock coats. We'll need to scout him first. We can't just go off of rumors, Naruto says. The four continue through the town as a few give Kaguya a second look, but she sees a few demihumans as well. The town also seems to have this slightly oppressive atmosphere, but the casual person couldn't see it. Perhaps we should stay somewhere, Rebecca suggests. A good idea, Naruto says, but his eyes narrow, seeing two of the thugs from his clone's memories. He turns to the three with a flick of his eyes as he bumps into one of the men. Watch where you're going, you brat, the man hisses. He has an eye patch over his right eye and has brown hair and an elaborate top knot and elaborate tattoos. It stretches across his entire left side and left-right, inner thigh, as well as a stitched scar on the left side of his forehead and the left side of his mouth. He wears a loose-fitting kimono with the top half falling around his waist to leave his upper body exposed, and bandages wrapped around his waist with simple sandals. Sorry, Mr. Naruto says, but man grabs him to pull the blonde into an alley. You bumped into me. You need to pay me for that, the man says. Naruto puts on this facade of a frightened teen, as the man glares with his lone eye. Two don't have money, he says. You're going hand over that bunny girl. I hear Demihuman pussy is tight, the man says, with a lecherous sneer. Naruto's facade drops and the dark look forms on his face, before pulling out the vortex fangs, and driving them into the man's thighs with a twist. He screams and falls to the ground as Naruto slams his boot on his chest. You going to tell me about Gato, Naruto says. You brat, the man hisses. Naruto flexes a little of Vildora's chakra, and the man breaks out into a cold sweat with white eyes. He stays on the west side in a compound with high walls and barbed wire. He also has a Missingin. A former member of the Seven Swords of Mist, he says. You finished, Naruto, Kushina says, dragging the other thug. He has bluish-white hair, having a dark purple hat on his head and black eyes with line markings tattooed under his eyes. He wears a blue jacket with multiple pockets and tied to his waist with brown shorts, along with simple sandals as well. Yeah, and I've got an idea, Naruto says, killing the man with vortex gaze. What sort of plan, Rebecca asks. Kushina and I will henge into these thugs to infiltrate Gato's place with Kaguya. You can provide overwatch in case things get dicey. However, there is a Missingin inside as well, Naruto explains. How strong of a Missingin, Kushina says. Probably Jonin level. So if things get dangerous. We leave, Naruto says and looks to Rebecca. If you see a shot, take it, he adds, and she nods. Kushina seals the bodies of the thugs into a scroll in case of a bounty, and the pair henge into the two of them. Let's get started, Naruto says, and all of them nod. Kushina and Naruto make their way to the west side of the city to search for Gato's place with Kaguya bound by her wrists. Is that a, Kushina says. Looks like, Naruto says. Waraji. Zori back already, and who's this, the guard says. Naruto gives the guard a lecherous smile. Found a young Demihuman. Gato will like her, he says. Hahaha. Maybe we'll get a chance on her, the second says, and internally the three were plotting their deaths. The three pass through the gate and Gato's place is a two-story house. How many, Naruto whispers. At least 20 with people underground, Kaguya whispers. Where have you two been, a voice says. Naruto sees two men approaching, with one wearing a suit and is short, having shaggy brown hair and small, circular black glasses. The other is strong and tall with a slender frame and no eyebrows, creases under his eyes, and a cross-shaped scar on his right cheek. He also has sharp shark-like teeth with red gridship marking covering his jaw. He wears a black tight-fitting sleeveless shirt with two light, thin stripes on his chest, a striped cloth belt and light pants, along with black arm covers, extending from his hands to his biceps. Also bandages around his neck and face which also cover his ears. The sword he carries is a tall broadsword with two cutouts, a circle close to the top, and a semicircular one nearer to the handle. The handle itself is extremely long with a notch having a strap wrapped around the weapon. Sorry boss, but we found this rabbit to Mihuman and wanted to get her for you, Kushina says, and Kaguya looks frightened. Gato looks over Kaguya with his hidden eyes undressing her and licks his lip. Good job, Sori. Waraji, he says, reaching to grab Kaguya, but the man with him stops him. What are you doing, Juzo? Gato says. These aren't Zori and Waraji, Juzo says, his eyes narrowed. No sense hiding, Naruto says, dropping their hinges and Kaguya breaking her bounds. What the hell are you people? Gato shouts. Call me Vortex Heart, Naruto says, and brings out Vortex Gaze. Juzo points his sword at Naruto as Gato skitters off. Go after him, Naruto says, as Kushina and Kaguya chase after him. Vortex Heart, huh, kid? What's your real name? Juzo says. Naruto shifts into an awkward stance with a serious look. Naruto knocks Fluidity says. Juzo Buwa, Juzo says. Music treachery bleach off. Naruto edges forward slowly as Juzo remains motionless with a small standoff forming. Why work for someone like Gato? Naruto says. Juzo says nothing but shoots forward with a wide swing, but Naruto leaps over it into a crouch and a thrust forward to pierce Juzo's chest. However, it isn't blood that spews but water, Mizubunshin, Naruto thought, as a shadow appears above him. Juzo brings his sword down, but Naruto dodges as it spiderwebs and Naruto uses the sword to run toward Juzo. However, the former Kurigaku ninja lets go of his sword and swings a weighted left as Naruto blocks with his forearm, but there was some force behind it, as the blonde lands with a skid. Not bad, kid, Juzo says, but weaves signs and raises his left arm. Ninpo Kurigaku no Jutsu, he utters, as a thick mist forms. Naruto's eyes move left and right as he lets go of Vortex Gaze, and summons Vortex Pain with his hand on the blade, as it slowly starts to glow aqua blue. There are 8 points I can strike, kid, and they all end in your death, Juzo says, from all around Naruto. The blonde remains motionless as Juzo appears to Naruto's left with a wide swing, but he blocks with a skid to Juzo's shock. Suit and water wheel, Naruto shouts, swinging and creating a wheel of water, but Juzo dodges to melt into the mist. Suit and Mizukamakiri barely echoes through the mist, and Naruto narrowly blocks each slice of water, but his left shoulder sprays blood. Naruto as Juzo appears above him with his sword down, and he gets Vortex Pain up to block as the ground crack underneath him. However, another Juzo appears behind Naruto with his sword cleaving him in half at the waist, but blood and guts don't appear. Juzo narrowly dodges lightning as his Mizubunshin is destroyed. Rant and Laser Circus barely echoes. Juzo turns and as several laser beams erupt from the mist, as his sword takes the brunt of the beams, but one finds his left side. This kid possesses a Kake Genkai, Juzo thought. A heavy gust of wind blows through and dispels the mist to reveal Naruto with the katana of the warrior in his hands, before both rush each other in a clash of strikes, with sparks erupting from each swing or counter. What one could not see through this dance of death is that their swords were telling a story, and slowly both were learning about the other. The dance breaks as both skid back with a few gashes on their bodies. Not bad, Naruto knocks fluid, Juzo says. Right back at you, Juzo Buwa. I can see why you were one of the 7 swords, Naruto says, but his breath hitches, as Juzo is blasted from behind by Gato. The mini tyrant stands with a pistol in his hand. What is taking you so long to kill some kid? Gato shouts. Juzo drops his sword with a loud clang, and clutches his heavily bleeding stomach with his right, staggering a bit and collapsing. Gato, you bastard, Juzo hisses. Naruto desummons his katana and rushes to Juzo's side as Gato points his pistol at him. You shinobi are always expensive. So this is me recouping my investment, he says, but screams in pain his gun hand is blown off. Naruto rushes to Gato and grabs him by his tie to toss him on his stomach, only to drive his silver longsword into Gato's back. I've inflicted a fatal wound. You may have a few minutes before you die, Naruto says, coldly, and Gato squeals in pain. He sees Kaguya approach with her staff in hand. Please help, Gato sputters. Naruto twists his sword and Gato screams more in pain. She can save you if you beg the gods to give Juzo a proper place in the afterlife, Naruto says. 3 Will any gods listening? Grant Juzo Buwa a place in the afterlife, Gato sputters. Naruto rips his sword from Gato's back. Don't say something that you don't mean, Naruto says, before severing Gato's spine from his neck. He turns his attention to Juzo and makes his way back to him. Brutal kid, Juzo says. I can heal him, Kaguya says. Juzo spits up some blood with a chuckle. No need, little lady. I'm too far gone. Though I have a request, he starts and groans. Burn me and take my Kubikirabacho. Kurigaku doesn't deserve it, he whispers, before drawing his last breath. Naruto sighs and closes Juzo's eyes as he rises to his full height. Where's Kushina and Rebecca, he says. Freeing the prisoners and mopping up Gato's thugs, Kaguya says as Naruto picks up the Kubikirabacho. When Kurigaku be on the hunt for it, she adds. Naruto adds the famed Kubikirabacho part of his armature. They can have it back for a price, he says. Naruto and company with the prisoners under Gato's compound, with them informing of their hero known as Vortex Heart, something that spreads for the next 3 years. Naruto stares at the ceiling of his old room with a groan escaping his lips as someone is sitting on his chest. Can I help you, Arya, he asks. It has been a week since his escapade in Nami, and news is spreading of the heroic Vortex Heart and his cadre as the general public were unaware of Gato's actions. Arya stares into Naruto's azure blue with a stuffed slug in her arms, and wearing a pink and white dress. You know magic like my dad did, she asks. I do, but you need to be bigger to learn, Naruto replies, beating her to the punch. Arya puffs her cheeks and slides off his chest, but Naruto raises his right hand to create a small flame to Arya's enjoyment. Magic is not too different from chakra. Learn that first, then maybe I can help with magic, he says. The door opens and Karen pokes her head in with kushina. Lunch is ready, kushina says. Mom made cheesesteak sandwiches, Karen says. Arya hops off Naruto's bed, and the blonde sits to get off as well. Extra cheese on mine, he says, and Karen nods, as he ruffles her hair a little. The two teens and toddlers make their way to the dining room, where Rebecca and Kaguya were seated with Tsunade and Taunton. Where's Shizune and Konan, Naruto asks. Konan's still working at the hospital, Tsunade says. Konan Isuko is one of the prisoners found at Gato's compound, and the man planned to sell her in a slave auction. She decided to follow Naruto and his cadre, as they had saved her from such a horrid fate. Thanks for the food, everyone says, and start eating. Naruto picks up half his cheesesteak as the extra cheese oozes from it. You are going to be backed up from all that cheese, Vildora comments. You're thinking about my bowel movements, Naruto thought, continuing to eat with happy noises. Naruto. Do you know where you and the others will head to train, Tsunade says, after a sip of tea. I want to learn to fully control Vildora's chakra, but also gain experience, Naruto replies. If that is the case, you would need to head to Kumogakure, Asakura says, cutting Karen's sandwich. Why Kumo, Kaguya asks. Of all the nations with Jinchuriki, Kumo has a track record of creating perfect Jinchuriki. Unlike the unstable Mizukage of Karigakure, whom many call the perfect Jinchuriki, Kumo has two true perfect Jinchuriki. Yujiro Nai and holder of the Nibi and killer holder of the Hachibi, but he's also the Reikage's brother, Asakura says. Minato tangled a lot with A and B during the war, Tsunade adds. To think Jayuki would get along with his host. Had the world might end soon, Vildora comments. Jayuki is that bad, Naruto thought, as Asakura explains what perfect Jinchuriki were. Jayuki is pretty bullheaded. Bad experiences when we were smaller, Vildora says. So to become a perfect Jinchuriki, Naruto would need to go to Kumogakure, Kushina says. Wouldn't the Reikage recognize Naruto as the Hokage's son, Rebecca says, and Asakura nods. They recognize his strength, but also family, Asakura says. Lunch soon finishes and Naruto heads out to the backgrounds to work off his sandwich with Rebecca and Kaguya watching from the deck. Naruto summons Bran and Kaiser to watch him, but also give tips as he brings out Vortex Gaze into Clone, that brings out Vortex Pain as both stare each other down. You possess affinities for water and air. Both can be gentle, but both can be very violent, Bran says. Naruto moves forward with a flurry of strikes as his clones blocks, parries or even counters. From a gentle breeze to a raging hurricane or a serene lake to a powerful maelstrom. Such is the power of wind and water, Kaiser adds. Gaze gains a sharpness as Naruto adds on and wind elemency to the sword. The clone counters with pain glowing a light blue, and the blades seemingly flowing like water. The clash ramps up more as both pick up their speed, as the swords become a flurry of movement, clangs and sparks as both circle each other. Naruto manages to disarm his clone into a spinning and upward slice to dispel the clone, before dispelling the sword with a roll of his neck. He then shifts into a stance of standing on his toes with his left outstretched, and his right close to his chin. I wonder who he'll shadow box this time, Rebecca says. Naruto slowly closes his eyes as the sea wind washes over his body, before his left arm start move like piston on an imaginary opponent. His head moves on a swivel as he dodging punches as his left moves from right to left, but right crashes forward. Rebecca and Kaguya focus and can barely out the form of a stocky fighter's head flying back from Naruto's right. It's like Naruto is conjuring an opponent from the ether, a voice says, and both look to see Konan. She has fair skin with amber eyes and shoulder-length blue hair, wearing a white blouse and black pants with a red scarf around her neck. It is known as image training, Bren says, landing on the deck fence. So like Konan said. Conjuring an opponent from his mind, Rebecca says, and Bren nods her head. The three turn their attention back to Naruto, as his moves become more focused as the image's fists move faster and harder. His footwork. His movements. The image he created is strong, Asakura says, standing behind the three girls with Kushina. What is the image based on, Kaguya asks. Asakura watches Naruto's movements as he seems to be bracing for punches from right to left, but sending a vague outline of moves. Naruto was a bit of bookworm in his younger days. Something I believe you two know, she says, and both nod, confusing Konan. When he was here, he did the same between his training. He read about many fighters, and that built the image he is fighting by using a jinjutsu, Asakura says. Ninjutsu, Rebecca says. It is a self-inflicted one of sword, Asakura says, seeing Naruto's guard break open. The blonde suddenly creates a gap into a full power right to his imagined opponent, sending him crashing back into the sand. Naruto releases a deep breath and falls on his rear with a sigh with a rub of his arms. A little better, Vildora says, and Naruto chuckles. He kips up and bring out a basta from his armature, before spinning around in right hand and closes his eyes once again. Naruto slowly starts move the staff around in what appears to an intricate dance, striking at invisible foes with precise thrusts of staff like a spear. Your weapons are extension of your limbs. No matter the weapon, Kaiser says. Naruto leaps with a burst of chakra into a spear thrust, landing in a front flip to a crouch, but springs up into a series of twirls of the staff, and spins to bring the staff down to disturb the sand. He pulls back into another spin with staff to cut the air, as if he was cutting a drop of water. Naruto halts and dispels the staff, but just as quickly brings out Vortex Abandon to pull its watt, firing a burst of wind to create a small split of the water. Uncle Ravis, Mom, I will continue to grow stronger and perhaps someday I'll find the ones who took you away from me, Naruto thought. It would be a month later when Naruto and company would leave Uzushio for the land of lightning in Kamagakure. To get the 5 into the village, Asakura would have Kushina, and by extension Naruto broker a treaty between Kumo and Uzushio. The terms were fair of trade between the two nations, with Uzushio possibly providing Fuinjutsu seals of various varieties for a price. Kushina would say goodbye to her mother and baby sister, but also Arya, Tsunade, Shizune and Taunton, as Naruto did the same. There were 2 routes for the group to take, with one being by sea, and moving through Frost Country, or travel by land. Naruto and company chose the latter as way to further train themselves, but also incorporate Konan into their group, teaching her some of the skills they learned in the King's Glove and Crown Guard. Konan would also learn their life stories of Naruto's life in Konoha until 5, leaving with his uncle and traveling south to Niflheim with Kushina. Kaguya's life, that her mother was assaulted by a Hyuga clan member, to how her village was wiped by people working for the slave auction, to Rebecca's family being killed and her being sold into slavery by a former friend of the family. Konan told her own story of how she grew in the country of Omegakure, a place of perpetual battles and rain. How family attempted to escape Hanzo of the Salamander's isolationist actions at the cost of her father, but slavers would kill her mother and would sell her to Gato. This talk about their lives further joined the group, but also added Konan to their merry band of misfits. The group would skirt along the coast of Fire Country up towards Hot Water Country, dealing with bandits and helping small villages. Each time Naruto would use the name Vortex Heart, something the others adopted as well, with Kushina taking the name Vortex Spade, Kaguya taking Vortex Club, Rebecca going for Vortex Diamond and Konan going with Vortex Ace. The hoods of their frock coats hid their faces, with Kaguya and Konan buying headed cloaks. Hot Water Country. Naruto and company could barely hold their stomachs at the sight before them of several people killed in a variety of ways. So you don't know who is killing the people, he says, his hood hiding his face. The man behind them shakes his head with a frightened look on his face. No. We thought it was a man called Haiden from the now defunct Yugakure no Sato, but he left country some 2 years ago, he says. Why did you think was in? Konan asks, and the man points to the symbol carved into a woman's forehead of upside-down triangle in a circle. The symbol of Jashin, Naruto says, and the man nods rapidly. I read about Haiden. That he practices the way of Jashin and is immortal, the blonde adds. I read that too, but how is he immortal? Kushina says, but Naruto shrugs. Will you help us? The man says. We'll investigate. I'm Vortex Art. There, Spade. Club. Diamond to Ace, Naruto says. Thank you for helping us. I am Yukich, follow me and we'll get you a place to stay, the man says. Naruto gives the bodies one last look and follows the others with Mukich into a small town, which has Hot Spring Inn after Hot Spring Inn. Mukich got them 2 conjoined room in one of the best inns in town, as a down payment for dealing with the person responsible. Naruto would remain in his section of the room, as the girls decided to check out the hot springs of the inn. This will delay us getting to Kumo, Kaguya says, sinking into the hot spring surrounded by stones with tall bamboo walls around them. Ah. Maybe, but it allows up to gain some notoriety, Kushina says, liking the feel of the water as Rebecca and Konan follow suit. Can I ask something? Konan asks, and the 3 nod. What is Naruto to you? Comrades or something more, she adds. He's our boyfriend, Kushina says, glancing to Rebecca and Kaguya with both nodding. Before we left Insomnia, we agreed to share Naruto. We may still be young, but we love Naruto, Rebecca adds. He saved us and deserves all the happiness he can get, Kaguya says. Konan looks down at the steaming water and could see her reflection. I see, she says, but Kushina and Rebecca could see that Konan may have a crush on their blonde. To change the subject, but do we think we'll find the person doing the killing? Rebecca says. You saw the bodies. I doubt someone who did such a thing would keep a low profile, Kushina says, as Konan and Kaguya covered their mouths. Footsteps echo and all 4 girls look to see a gorgeous woman approaching the spring. She has a breathtaking figure with a slender waist, wide hips and large S with cascading raven hair to the middle of her back. Her eyes were also a haunting jade green. Hello ladies, in here I thought the spring was empty, the woman says, stepping into the water and removing her towel. Hello, Ms. Kushina says. You can call me Mihem, the woman says, as the others introduce themselves. You seem a little young to be on your own. There's a killer on the loose, Mihem says. We're trained, Kushina says, and Mihem's green eyes widen slightly. Kanoichi, interesting, Mihem says and runs her smaller towel along her forehead. Tell me, girls. Have you heard of the hot spring where you can see those who have died, she adds. People who have died, Rebecca says. Surely something like that doesn't exist, Konan says, but Mihem smiles, showing her pearly whites. Oh, but it does, Mihem says, before leaving the 4 girls to their devices. Think she is telling the truth, Kushina says. I got a bad vibe from her, Kaguya says, unaware of how right she is. They leave the hot spring and dry off to slip on their blue striped robes and make their way back to their room. Kushina knocks on Naruto's door, and the blonde opens it as the 4 enter. Was the hot spring good, he asks, after taking a seat on his bed. It was. You should try it, Kushina says. We also heard a story that one of the hot spring that can let you see the dead, Rebecca says. That's odd, Naruto says. But the person who told us gave off his strange vibe, Kaguya adds. Naruto cups his chin in thought. We'll explore the village more and ask around, he says. Well, we're going to get some food, Kushina says, and Naruto nods. I'll check out the hot spring, Naruto says, as the four go through the door conjoining their room. A hot spring to see the dead, Vildor comments. Naruto leaves his room in thought, but the dragon could tell the blonde was curious. It may just be stories to get people to check their hot spring, Naruto thought. He takes a shower to clean himself up, and finally makes his way to the hot spring with a towel around his waist, showing off his tattoos of a silver and blue phoenix around his left arm with a Leontiger hybrid on his back. I doubt such a hot spring would exist, Bren comments, as the blonde slips into the water and winces a little from the heat. You're probably right. Regardless, we'll check things out because my instincts are telling me this town is off, Naruto thought. Music hide in theme, Naruto was. The tearing of flesh and screams fill a large cavern as people were being brutalized by robed figures with a symbol for Jashin carved into their foreheads. The cavern is fairly large with 2 entrances having tree roots surrounding the entrances. The victims were mentally gone from the torture and madness of their captors. Your deaths are in service, Jashin one howls, stabbing a young woman multiple times. Others were doing the same and screaming about Jashin as another 2 robed figures enter from a path under the roots of a tree. One removes their HUD to reveal Mihem and other being Yukich. The girls are Kunoichi, she says. I don't know which village they are from, but they fell for my cover story concerning the sacrifices, Mukich says. Mihem shifts her gaze to a long tub on a raised section. No matter. These Kunoichi will be fitting sacrifices to Jashin and grant me immortality, she says, approaching the tub and stripping off her robe. She climbs into the tub as a few of her followers drag several girls towards her. A few of the girls are forced to kneel at the edge of the tub, before their throats are slit and their blood floods into the tub. Mihem moans as she feels the blood touch her skin. Ah. Blood always allows me to remain this beautiful, and once I gain immortality, not even hiding can stop me, she says. Mihem's followers continue to sacrifice girls for Mihem's bloodbath until the tub is halfway full of blood. What shall we do with one known as Heart, Mukich says. Mihem cups some blood and raises it to cover her face with some slipping down her throat, leave him a trail to follow and kill him. Also have some spread the story of the hot spring, she says, and Mukich bows at the waist. Mihem continues her blood bath, and even pleasures herself with the blood, but is unaware her dream of eternal life would remain simply a dream. Song ends. Naruto moves through forest on the trail of his quarry after spending a week in this hot spring town, while Kushina and the other were chasing the rumor of a hot spring, allowing one to see their deceased friends or family. The 5 were starting to see that the townspeople of this small hot spring town were off. However, Naruto and his comrade noticed some dark machinations among the people, causing the blonde to take steps on the matter. Up ahead, Brent says, flying above Naruto at the size of a raven. Naruto sees a person in a black cloak squatting over a visitor of the town. What are you doing? He shouts. The figure slowly rises and turns to Naruto with blood dripping from their left hand, but a scythe on their right hand. The scythe itself is red and silver with 2 blades etched in Jashin symbols. Oh? Another sacrifice to Jashin, the figure says, revealing his gender. So you're the culprit, Naruto says. The figure removes their cloak and tosses it aside to reveal a sickle-looking man with short blonde hair spiked up on the sides, and a couple of strands falling over his forehead. He has red eyes that are deeply sunken in and an earring in his left ear, wearing a long dark coat with a high collar, pants and sandals. My name is Ryuki and you will be my sacrifice, the figure says, a crazed smile and eyes on his face. Naruto narrows his eyes and brings out Vortex Pain with a serious look. Well, come and try, he says. Ryuki blitzes with a flurry of strikes, and they have no rhythm or reason as Naruto parries each. Come on, bleed for me, Ryuki howls. Naruto retreats with a skid and breaks right towards a tree to run, but Ryuki slices into the tree, causing it fall, but Naruto comes down with helm break. Ryuki gets his scythe up to block as his boots dig into the dirt, but the crazed look doesn't leave his face. Naruto dispels pain and grabs the scythe to monkey-flip Ryuki over him. Ryuki crashes to the ground as Naruto kips, but the crazed man only laughs. Ha 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 ha. I can't wait to sacrifice you to Jashin, though I would prefer that bunny girl, but Mihem will have her and those other girls, Ryuki says. What? Naruto says. Ryuki staggers to his feet with a mad giggling. Those girls with you will be sacrificed to make Mihem immortal like Haiden, he says. So Mihem is the mastermind of this little charade, Naruto says. Correct, and if you were to get past me, Mihem will have killed them all already, Ryuki says, laughing, but Naruto starts laughing with him to the madman's shock. I think you need to reverse that statement. Mihem will be killed by them, Naruto says. Ryuki's crazed look shifts into a murderous one as he slowly crouches to pick his side. You will pay for besmirching Mihem, he hisses. Naruto brings out the vortex fangs and flips both into a reverse grip with crossguard stance. Ryuki makes the first moves with a wide swing of his scythe, but Naruto blocks, before ducking under the scythe to rush towards Ryuki. He quickly yanks on the scythe to try and pierce Naruto from behind, but the blonde Kawarimis with a log. Ryuki screams, as one of the vortex fangs pierces his right shoulder. Naruto holds Vortex abandoned with the other Vortex Fang as an arrow, before releasing and the force behind it shears off Ryuki's left arm at the shoulder. Ryuki clutches his stump with white eyes to point of being bloodshot. Only give me pleasure, he says. Naruto pulls on his bow with a blank look. Then allow me to give you the little death, he says, firing a few wind arrows. They pierce Ryuki in the chest, stomach and forehead, as the crazed man falls with a look of pleasure etched on his face. What a disgusting man, Bren says. Naruto stares at Ryuki's corpse and points his left hand, abolishing flame, he utters, as a blue flame erupts from his hand to incinerate Ryuki's body. I wonder if the others are finished, Naruto says, before heading back to town. Mayhem stares in horror as her carefully crafted plan for eternal life goes up in flames at the hands of 14 girls. The plan was simple, as she would perform the ritual of immortality with 20 girls, and she had already sacrificed 16 for it, using various travelers and spreading the story of the hot spring, capable of showing one's deceased loved ones. The town is filled with her followers, so no one was the wiser if tourists were killed. It would be easily to blame bandits or missingmen, and the town would profit by using the tourists' belongings by selling them. They were supposed to be weak girls, Mayhem thought. Rebecca is blowing out kneecaps and limbs with her quicksilvers, while Kushina is tearing through Mayhem's followers with her chainsword. Konan is using the hot spring as a water source for various suit and jutsu and paper shuriken that are as lethal as metal ones, and Kaguya uses her magic to stop Mayhem's followers. Mayhem grabs a spear with a crazed look on her face, and charges towards Kaguya to perform a curse technique on her, but she cries out as right kneecap explodes with blood. You little bitch, Mayhem shrieks, now on the ground with her right leg now useless. You're the bitch. Killing innocent people for your stupid ritual, Kushina says. How dare you besmirch Lord Jashin, Mayhem hisses. Rebecca points her quicksilvers at Mayhem. We dare because your god doesn't deserve respect, Rebecca. You girls have finished, Kaiser says, his teeth and claws stained with blood. Kushina creates a few clones to lead the survivors out. As she picks up Mayhem and lays her on Kaiser. Has Naruto made it back to the town, Kushina says. Kaguya closes her eyes and looks through her swallows of air. Yes. He's in the center of the town with Mukage, she says. Can you teleport us, Kushina says. Kaguya holds her staff with both hands as the others group up as Kaguya channels her magic as the surrounding blur and shift from the cavern to the town square. Kaiser dispels and drops Mayhem on her stomach as the others see Naruto with a sword pointed as Mukage, but also see villagers approaching. Mukage. Kill them, Mayhem sputters, now awake. Naruto glances back to the crippled woman. There we have confirmation you belong to her cult, he says. She forced me, Mukage whispers. Naruto narrows his eyes and looks over the villagers. So she forced you all to perpetrate her and her cult's murders. Yet you wear expensive jewelry or possess trinkets from travelers, he says, but two clones pop to life, before hinging into a mother and daughter to the horror of the crowd. When Kushina and the others told me about the spring, I wanted to test theory. Something I saw in the past, Naruto says, and all but Konan frown, confusing her. We killed them, Mayhem hisses, but screams as Rebecca blows out her other kneecap. Yes, he did. That girl over there has the doll of the child. You people are accessories to their crimes for your own greed, Naruto says, and the villagers try to defend themselves. Declaring the springs were starting to dry up and other towns were prospering, when Mayhem offered them the wares of the dead they took it. You killed innocent people, Kushina shouts, and they continue to defend their actions. Mayhem tries to crawl past Naruto and his group, but the blonde manifests a silver great sword to drive it into Mayhem's back, causing her to scream in pain and pleasure mixed in. You people are vile and have taught your children such actions, however that will be your undoing. The moment you killed those two, I sent messages to every village around this town. They will know every one of your crimes. That will be your judgment, and I pray to God that you relive every craven, selfish and vile act you've committed, Naruto says. Woe are you to judge us, Mayhem says, but Kushina twists the blade in her back. We may be children, but we have seen the horrors people can commit. However, I hope every one of you feel the same pain you brought upon those whose deaths you profited upon, Kushina says, before ripping out the sword and slicing off Mayhem's head. The teens give one last look at the people and leave the town, but the country itself. Their enjoyment of hot springs nearly irreparably damaged as they leave hot water country, each of them trying to come to terms with what they witnessed and nightmares hunting them for a few weeks. They passed through Frost country, and the name was sort of ironic as Frost was nowhere to be found until they reached near the border of lightning. The land of lightning is country of mountain ranges and rivers, heading towards the ocean itself with a crooked coastline. They continue to make a name for themselves by dealing with bandits, a few missingmen that were weaker than Juzo, and gaining a little notoriety with the country that might reach Kumagakure before them. They also had to endure numerous lightning storms and monsoon-like weather in some areas. This would inundate them in a few times, but for Konan and Kaguya, it was a chance to enjoy the rain and play in it, something they dragged Naruto and the others into. The journey continued, and they passed through the many mountain ranges towards Kumagakure, finding the village literally hidden among the clouds itself. Kumagakure no Sato. Beyond Aim Reikage Yusuke sits at his desk with a pen in his right hand and a 50-pound dumbbell in his left. He has dark skin with a large muscular build, white hair combed back, a small mustache and goatee. His face has pronounced cheekbones and tear troughs under his eyes, and a prominent crease across his forehead. He wears a white haori without a shirt and large golden vambraces on his wrists. He also wears a gold belt around his waist with a boar's face engraved in the center, black pants with Kumo-style shin guards, and shinobi sandals. The door opens and Ae looks up to see his secretary Mabui, Isama. "We have a small group from Yuzushio," she says. "Yuzushio," Ae says, and Mabui nods. She has matcha skin with green eyes and light gray hair pulled back into a bun with 2 bangs that fall on either side of her face. She wears a dark long-sleeve high-collared dress shirt-skirt combo, along with a pair of long earrings and high-heel sandals. Yes. One of them is daughter of Asakura Uzumaki, and another to me resembles Minato Namikaze, Mabui says, and Ae places his dumbbell down. "Where are they?" Ae says. "They are in one of the meeting rooms and had a scroll with details of a possible alliance," Mabui says, handing Ae the scroll. He opens it and reads the details about Yuzushio willing to sell various Yunjutsu-based items, even offering to teach their ninja Yujutsu through Tsunade Senju. Interesting. "Bring me Asakura's daughter and Minato's supposed son," Ae says, and Mabui bows at the waist. Ae sits to await the pair, but someone decided to involve themselves. Yobrotha shouts one killer and his younger brother. "What are you doing here?" Ae says. B has dark skin, having a muscular build with white hair and a goatee, a Volship sunglasses and a white head. He wears an Estepavarana shoulder flak jacket, and a long red rope belt tied around his waist, the standard Kumo hand and shin guards, shinobi sandals, and a white scarf around his neck with 7 swords. "Mista 8 cents Mista 9 in the village," B says, and raps a little. "Shut up, B. Prepare yourself, the Hachibi Jayuki says." The door opens as Mabui enters with Naruto and Kushina as Ae narrows his eyes towards the blonde. "Hello Yandeme-sama. My name is Kushina Uzumaki, and this my friend Naruto." Nox Fluid, Kushina says. Nox Fluid A questions and Naruto slowly nods. "Why not Namikaze?" he adds, shocking B. "He's the yellow flashes." "Little flash," B says. Ae leans forward on his desk with his eyes on Naruto. "Well, why are you Yuzushio and not Konoha?" he says. "It's a complicated matter," Yandeme-sama, Naruto says, but sees B staring at him. "Jayuki must have sensed evil doors," says. "I see. So why does the Whirlpool Maiden want to align with Kumo? Aren't they Konoha's allies?" Ace says. "Our alliance with Konoha is almost non-existent. So mom wants to look for greener acres. Everything written I in the scroll is what Yuzushio is offering," Kushina says. A taps the scroll a few times with a nod. "I can see that, but my curiosity on why the Kairoi Senko's son is here in Kumo so sate my curiosity, and I may accept an alliance between Kumo and Yuzushio," he says. Kushina glances to Naruto with a soft look on her face, but before she could tell him he didn't have to, the blonde raises his hands to stop her. "I'm sure every major nation has heard about the Kyuubi incident," Naruto says, and A nods. "Well, my mother Luna Freya Nox Fluid sealed the Kyuubi inside me. Mere hours after I was born by invoking the Shinigami and using a seal made by the Uzumaki," he continues. "Luna Freya Nox Fluid was your mother." "I've heard about the Oracle Healer," Mabui says, and Naruto nods. "My condolences," she adds, causing Naruto to nod once again. "So Konoha got their hands on the strongest Biju, and its Jinchuriki is the Kairoi Senko's own son," Ace says. "Son would be a loose term in Minato's mind. To him I am a bastard from his southern fling. He married the Fire Lord's grandniece, and she gave him 2 daughters in his eyes. They could do no wrong, and I could only do wrong," Naruto says, clenching his fist tightly. "His fears of Jinchuriki pushed me away, and at 5 I left Konoha for Niflheim with my uncle," Naruto adds. "So he let the Jinchuriki of the strongest Biju leave with no fuss." A questions and Naruto nods, looking the cage in his eyes. Konoha is a superstitious place, and the villagers but also ninja have preconceived notion when it concerns Jinchuriki. "The mad Mizukichi comes to mind," Naruto says. "I thought Minato Namikaze was a noble man, but to abandon his own son in such a manner," Mabui comments. "So why did you come with Little Red?" Little 9B asks. "Lady Asakura told me that Kumo has trained perfect Jinchuriki, and I want to do the same and become a perfect Jinchuriki as well to use Vildora's power," Naruto says, and A stares at the young blonde before him. "Why should Kumo train you to become a perfect Jinchuriki? Are you going to become a ninja of Kumagakure?" says. "No, but you can say to the world that you trained Minato Namikaze's son better than he ever could," Naruto says. A leans back in chair and pushes it back to rise to his feet, before rounding the desk to loom over Naruto in thought. "They take him and his little group to the Unrekan. Test his metal," A says. "You got it, brother. Follow me, Little 9. It's time I shine," B says. Naruto and his group look around and wonder the Unrekan or Valley of Clouds and Lightning, as it was a large water-filled valley covered in clouds. They were walking down a very long length of steps that were adorned with eastern dragons as B is rapping non-stop, something that was annoying to both Kushina and Rebecca. The group of 6 soon reached the bottom of the stairs to a large area, but Naruto sees 4 people already there. Right, and Shiroreki-kun shouts. She's a girl around Naruto's age with blonde hair cut in an asymmetrical bob and has ice blue eyes, wearing a gray outfit with fingerless white gloves on. Samui is shining with her white lightning, B comments. "Looks we get to meet the Hellcat herself," Eldora comments. Naruto sees another woman with long, straight, blonde hair bound with taut bandages, dark eyes and red lipstick. She wears a short-sleeved black and purple blouse and black pants, both of which have a design similar to clouds on them, purple fingerless gloves, and a chain of blue beads wound around her left hand. Yoderi. She. Yujito and Samui. I brought some new friends to meet the B shouts, getting their attention. Seems B brought Vildora's host here, voice says, within Yujito's mind. He's Vildora's Jinchuriki Matatabi, Yujito thought, but glances to see Samui has a little pink on her cheeks, fufu. Seems Samui instantly likes him, she thought. Lord the Lord B, she says. He has dark eyes and short blonde hair parted in the front. He wears a sleeveless black shirt with an Estapavarana shoulder white flak jacket, black head, black oval-length arm guards, and the red and white shin guards, along with a pair of sandals. This is Naruto Nox Flirt. Kushina Uzumaki. Rebecca Victoria. Kaguya Itsuki and Konan Itsuko B says, and the five-wave, Bear Derry. She. Samui and Yujito B adds. Are those real? Samui asks, pointing to Kaguya's ears. They are. I am from Niflheim and I am a Demehuman, Kaguya says. They are pretty rare this far north, Derry says. He is a fairly tall and dark-skinned with a slightly bulbous nose, black eyes, and shaggy white hair that covers his left eye. He wears a high-collar, sleeveless uniform with loose-fitting pants, bandages on his wrists and the Estapavarana shoulder flak jacket. Why are they here? Yujito asks. B places a hand on Naruto's right shoulder. Little Nine want to fully shine, B says. Little Nine, Derry says, but his breath hitches with a O face. Ratha wants me to spar with him. Sorry to interrupt your party, B says. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment below your favorite part. Don't forget to support The Adventures of the Vortex Hunter by Chambliss and his story link in the description. See you in the next video. Sayonara.